is Popomlife had taken over. Nowadays, in 2025, PRASA is battling to reach 70 million trips, which is 12% of the capacity it had in 2015. Yet some of you will come to this house and blame Montana. He left PRASA 10 years ago, and no one since that day has reached the staggering records he and his team were able to achieve. Between 2016 and 2018, Brian Molefe managed to stop load shedding, President. And for more than 540 days, South Africa forgot what load shedding is. It was to return in May 2018 when new president started preaching a new dawn, which has proved to be a long night. We experienced up to level 6 load shedding until 2024, when the Andrew Director left, the CEO who had been hired by this administration. He was actually writing a book instead of running ESCOM. In 2018, when Transnet was glorious and on the ascent, it carried 226 million tons on its railways and made a profit of 5 billion rand. Today, after this administration had to create a business case for what it would term state capture, again bringing the butcher of SOEs who ejected all the skilled personnel, Transnet was brought to its knees and could only carry 151 million tons last year and a staggering loss of 7 billion rand. This is 35% less than it carried during the glorious years of 2017-2018. 2 days ago, Transnet was downgraded by Standards & Poor. And they cited that it is unlikely to meet the target tonnage that it had set for itself. On the 22nd of February 2018, SARS reached the 1 trillion mark for the third consecutive year under Commissioner Moyane, and yet a judge was hired to rubbish all the achievements he had made. That is the nature of New Dawn South Africa. Successful black executives who have backbones and refuse to be assimilated are identified, tainted, harassed, and humiliated so that no black child can have a positive role model. Today, lies are being told, but the numbers do not lie. SOEs were deliberately brought to their knees so that a new trick called Operation Vulindlela could be hatched. You are opening the privatization path for the rich elites to consolidate their wealth to the continued exclusion of the masses of our people. According to its own documents, the Presidency and Treasury have used Operation Vulindlela to fast-track the corporatization of the National Ports Authority, vertically separate Transnet Freight Rail, formalize the National Transmission Company of South Africa, restructure the ESCOM grid, and create PSP units housed in the DBSA and water boards, all outside the scrutiny of Parliament. In other words, it is a project that outsources state power, re-engineers public ownership, and neutralizes public accountability through reform milestones and asserts privatization as the panacea for all of the country's economic ills. As an example, and this is by no means exhaustive, the vertical separation of Transnet Freight Rail is ill-advised. Breaking up of a network industry whose costs remain low as a result of economies of scale, where fixed costs can be spread proportionally based on more volumes carried by rail, will result in higher costs to consumers. However, the Presidency is hell-bent on selling the country's crown jewels and will even do so without a proper business case which would have informed it that the lack of densification of commodities in the rail space militates against breaking freight rail at this point. Private companies will have to charge more as the rail infrastructure provider's source of income will shift to access fees. By 2029, this government will have to subsidize the Transnet Freight Rail Infrastructure Manager upwards of 30 billion rand per annum. And like British Rail, we will recognize the folly of this premature move later. This has not been provided for in the budget simply because the consultants are less than frank when providing advice to government. Whether it is at water boards or at ESCOM or Transnet, There is no substitute for placing competent boards of directors and competent managers to lead the business and then drive the correct KPIs to meet societal expectations. Eskom has proved that with a competent chairperson and board, as well as recruiting knowledgeable CEO skills in the form of Dan Marokane, the entity can be turned around swiftly. This country does not need Operation Vulindlela. Izimboni zombuso sesithengiselwa labo abangenankosi, labo abangenaso isilo. The Operation Vulindlela process was not publicly debated in this house. It was introduced in the back door and repeated many times that people who do not know what it is will easily say, we remember the word, but they do not know what the program is. It was not subjected to socio-economic impact assessments. No business cases exist that have been publicly scrutinized, except data from sweetheart consultants who were hired to drive transfer of state assets into private hands. This is a neo-colonial and neoliberal agenda with a high price to pay for the country in the future. And we do not say that there are no industries that would benefit from privatization, but wholesale privatization as driven by Operation Vulindlela undermines the state's ability to drive economic growth through state-led investment and creating a responsible developmental state. The Vulindlela process is privatization by stealth, hidden in plain sight. It is administered through the National Treasury and Presidency-sponsored TBSA PSP unit and informed by consultants paid through undisclosed contractual mechanisms. This, honorable members, is real state capture. I repeat, a state of capture which uses legislative reform and policy abstraction. It is harder to see, but far more difficult to reverse. Imagine if we had sold SAA for 51 Rand as approved by the cabinet, and then 2 years later it makes 250 million Rand profit. If it was this parliament that probed the Takaso deal and stopped it, and that saved the day. What we are witnessing is what legal professionals have correctly termed a soft coup, the systematic privatization of the state without the political cost of saying so. A submission by concerned legal professions to the Portfolio Committee on Transport makes sobering reading. It alleges coercive NDAs being used to silence whistleblowers within Transnet, the circumvention of procurement protocols, and a quiet corporatization of logistics through shadow structures like the National Logistics Crisis Committee, a body that does not appear in any law but acts with the authority of cabinet. The NLCC has an incestuous relationship with both BUSA, which front-loads business for South Africa, an entity with no legal persona as well, or standing under any laws of our country, as well as with the interim rail regulator. And all this is funded and sustained by Budget Vote 1. Honorable Speaker, Vote 1 is where the parallel state predominates. The presidency budget for 25-26 total 747 million. Of that, over 654 million is allocated to administration, mostly more than 561 staff, strategic communications, consultants, and outsourced services. More than 83 million is allocated to travel and subsistence. The support services to the President's sub-program, valued at 103 million, is described as including national commemorative advance, public engagements, and coordination of district oversight. But nowhere does it tell how this coordination is measured, reported, or verified. What we know, though, is this. While Vote 1 inflates, our municipalities collapse. While consultants grow, public engineers vanish. While NDAs spread, whistleblowers disappear. While PSP units expand, SOE balance sheets shrink. And while the presidency builds an empire of technocratic opaqueness, the people get more speeches and fewer services. This budget also pretends to fund reform, but it actually funds the insulation of the executive from the people it should serve. It funds the administration of market restructuring without the counterbalance of public interest and oversight. And it funds the creation of a parallel decision-making bodies, entities that are neither elected nor accountable, but are empowered to negotiate, contract, and plan in the name of the state. There's no line item for the NLCC or B4SA. There's no code for the TBSA PSP units operating under Vulindlela. There's no sub-program tracking the displacement of civil service roles by consultant frameworks. And yet, these activities are now in the heartbeat of executive economic planning. The figures in this budget may balance on paper, but they unbalance the future.
Honorable Gama, just hold on for a moment. Please take your seat. Honorable Deputy Minister, why do you want to be recognized?
I would like to check if the honorable member can take a question.
Thank you. Honorable Gama, are you prepared to take a question?
It depends who's asking. So South Africa is being
Okay, let's answer
structured
that one.
sector by sector, policy by policy, and budget by budget into a state that is administered by private design. That design is being implemented under the name of Operation Vulindlela, enforced through Budget Vote 1 and shielded by a wall of plausible deniability funded through careful communications, legal teams, and strategic advisors. Let us call this what it is: executive defiance of constitutional accountability. We in the MK party cannot and will not legitimize that through our silence or our vote. The MK party rejects
Thank you.
this vote. The
next speaker is the Honorable Kohler.
Thank you, House Chairperson. South Africa's security apparatus should form the cornerstone of our nation's peace and stability. That's according to global best practice. As the saying goes, we cannot control the waves, but we can learn to surf. Hearing the Minister and the Presidency admit that there was indeed the possibility of a coup d'etat here in our country, having said a scant hour earlier in a debate that other nations watching Sunday's media briefing were thinking that such an event was already underway. Well, that had me admiring the honesty with which she spoke. By finally releasing the promised reports on the national security lie of the land, so to speak, was brave to put it mildly. Indeed, an honest reflection of where we are right now reveals an intelligence ship tainted by allegations of collapse, state capture, and corruption, reaching the highest levels of our nation's intelligence community. We entrust these agencies to be the guardians of our democracy, the silent sentinels ensuring our safety. Yet in recent years, their credibility has been white-anted by scandal, mismanagement, and political interference. Unlike those in this House who have never gone through the rigors of top-secret security vetting, what those of us hear and see on the JSCI is at times breathtakingly alarming. Suggestions, however, that what we do is sign off on the erosion of personal freedoms is wrong on every level. And I speak as someone who's been a member for 6 years and not just begun to attend. The Minister yesterday also highlighted the need to decontaminate the criminal justice system of criminality. Now, this in the light of the Makonazi revelations. True, but the threats flying that should the Lieutenant General be suspended after his media briefing, riots similar to those of 2021 will follow, are concerning indeed. And in a country plagued by unemployment, poverty, inequality, and poor service delivery, we find ourselves in a very volatile situation. Nobody who was there will forget as citizens blockading our streets and standing guard in the total absence of the SAPs, or that during those riots, some 350 died and 50 billion rands worth of damage was caused. And where were our intelligence services then exactly? I fear that claims that such riots will never be allowed to happen again, ring rather hollow. I doubt there is anyone in the country who disagrees that the very pillars of the Republic's security, comprising the State Security Agency, Defense Intelligence, and Crime Intelligence, require both a systemic clean-out and resource capacitation. The reality is that peace is but a conduit for development. Hence, to ensure a stable security landscape, our intelligence community must be capacitated with capable, competent, and well-resourced staff. The inevitable outcome of the lack of capacitation sees us viewed as an epicenter for illicit terror funding, with the knock-on effect that has seen our nation's credibility and security shaken to the core. According to the Organized Crime Index of 2023, South Africa has lost state control to mafia networks, gangs, and corrupt officials. One of the main causes of our being grey-listed was our vulnerability to illicit terror funding. Having a safe and secure state is so much more than about preventing harm. It's equally about displaying to the global community that foreign direct investment will be used for economic development and not nefariousness. the very essence of the Weberian state, and the decline in the Republic's ability to wield control over the use of force is the driver behind the increase in criminality that sees our citizens live in constant fear for our lives. Such a reality is nothing more nor less than an existential threat to our nation's very survival. In essence, Weber's definition highlights the state's unique ability to maintain order and enforce its will within the borders through the controlled use of force. The next logical question that must be asked is, does our country have the ability to maintain order? Well, 14 months ago, Professor Kachalia, in his capacity as part of the National Corruption Advisory Council, handed President Ramaphosa a comprehensive report which claims to have detailed what plagues crime intelligence. Yet, to date, the President has yet to make the report public. It is in the interests of the country that we know the contents of the report and call on Professor Kachalia in his capacity as the incoming acting police minister to act on the findings of the report to once and for all clean the rot out of crime intelligence, the very same rot that saw the arrest of the entire top structure of crime intelligence just over 3 weeks ago. We cannot continue to allow crucial reports to gather dust. When Mr. Ramaphosa first became the president, his task was to implement the recommendations of the Zondo Commission into state capture. 3 full years and 1 billion rand later, there's no accountability in the face of sometimes horrific testimonies. 0 arrests. And Mr. President, for your very credibility as the chief executive, this has to change. Reports and commissions must have teeth if we truly mean business. Otherwise, they're just useless piles of paper used to cover over the cracks. What must also change, Mr. President, in addition to your inaction, is your prevarication. Now, your minister in the presidency, who is the political head of the State Security Agency, is reportedly awaiting a decision by the National Prosecuting Authority following the disappearance of 80 million rand during her time as a municipal manager. Now, should a person with such clouds circling above her head have a place around the cabinet table, let alone overseeing the SSA? It's as if the state capture never happened, when in fact our security and intelligence apparatus was grossly manipulated. The very man who was the minister who broke the State Security Agency serves today as a deputy minister. Honourable David Mhlongo is still a member of cabinet, enjoying the benefits of the state he tried and came very close in succeeding to destroy. Look back at the Zondo Commission hearings and do a search for, quote, carrying off suitcases stuffed with cash. Just because we believe the SSA is not captured today, that does not mean it will never be so again. South Africa is a nation that learns lessons from its past, but it seems the presidency has yet to learn the lessons from the 3 years of state capture hearings. As the Democratic Alliance, we have long called for the depoliticization of our intelligence services, coupled with that of a skills rebuild and enhanced coordination between the security services. These are all vital mechanisms which must occur so that public trust can once again be restored in our government's ability to protect our citizens from threats, both foreign and domestic. This is why we hammered on for so many years about pushing the General Intelligence Laws Amendment Bill through the system to clear out what those dreadful Zuma years had done to our intelligence services. When our intelligence services are strong, our economy is safer, our streets are more secure, and our future brighter. But when they are weakened by corruption and incompetence, we all suffer. Let us demand a professional, ethical, and effective intelligence community. We have been through so much. We have earned this right. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, the Honourable Morolong.
House Chairperson, President of the people of South Africa, President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, members of the National Executive, honorable members of Parliament, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans. We gather here today in this August House, just over a week after the passing of Ms. Teresa Solomon, yet another towering activist for equality, peace, and justice. We, the descendants of such a courageous soldier for peace, will forever remain indebted to Comrade T and her generation, who are born of the matriarchs of our struggle, women like Comrade T, as she was affectionately known in her community. She belonged to a generation of freedom fighters whose vision for the future was to nurture the belief that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, to foster a common loyalty to and pride in our country, and to cultivate a universal sense of freedom. As they articulated this vision through the Ready to Govern document in 1992, they understood that the democratic project was not a byproduct of peaceful negotiations, but the culmination of relentless struggles waged by the masses of our people, courageously led by the African National Congress. House Chairperson, we stand before this honorable House today to expound on the budget vote for the presidency, a vote that speaks directly to the heart of our constitutional democracy and the engine room of our national effort to build a better life for all. This budget is not merely an allocation of funds. It is an investment in the stability, capability, and vision required to steer South Africa towards its destiny. Section 83 of our Constitution defines the President as the head of state and head of the national executive, entrusted with upholding, defending, and respecting the Constitution as the bedrock of our democracy. Section 85 further charges the President with a solemn responsibility to execute this mandate through the powers vested in the high office of the land. The Presidency, Honorable Speaker, is the pivotal institution established to support the President in fulfilling this immense constitutional duty. It is a nerve center of government responsible for strategic coordination, policy coherence, and ensuring the effective implementation of the electoral mandate across all spheres and departments. This budget vote directly resources the Presidency to provide strategic support and advice to the President, coordinate the integrated program of government, manage the interface between the executive, parliament, and other constitutional bodies, oversee the national response to critical challenges and opportunities, safeguard the integrity and smooth functioning of the executive branch. This budget is therefore fundamental to ensuring that the President has a necessary capacity to lead decisively, constitutionally, and in the best interest of all South Africans. Honorable members, the vision of a capable, ethical, and developmental state is central to the mandate of our democratic government. This budget vote provides a critical resource to drive this transformation, focusing on three key pillars. The first pillar being the professionalization of the public service. A cornerstone of this effort is the establishment of the position of the head of public administration as mandated by the Public Administration Management Act. This is not merely an administrative step. It is a decisive move towards the professionalization of our state. This senior official will be singularly focused on driving standards of excellence, ethical conduct, and performance management across the public service. This budget allocates resources to ensure this office is empowered to set norms and standards, build capacity, combat corruption, and foster a culture of service delivery that truly prioritizes the citizen. It is an investment in the backbone of our developmental state. The second pillar being upholding accountability. Transparency and accountability are non-negotiable pillars of an ethical state. The President is constitutionally mandated to establish commissions of inquiry to investigate matters of significant public concerns, such as state capture and systemic failures. The Presidency plays a vital role in facilitating the work of these commissions and crucially in processing their outcomes. This budget supports the necessary administrative and analytical capacity within the Presidency to ensure that these findings and recommendations are meticulously considered, translated into actionable plans, and their implementation rigorously tracked. Those who seek to divide this country would have us believe that these commissions are a pointless exercise and a waste of public funds. Nothing could be further from the truth. The recovery of 11 billion in stolen assets is not wastage. It is the revenue channeled back into the fiscus to address essential public service and infrastructure development. Without the State Capture Commission, this money would never have been recovered, and our state will still be controlled by thugs and cowards who fled the country to evade accountability. The third pillar being fostering social cohesion. Our strength as a nation lies in our unity amidst diversity, recognizing the fractures in our social fabric. The President has championed the National Dialogue Initiative. The Presidency provides critical coordination and secretariat support for these vital national conversation. Madam Speaker, this budget enables us to facilitate these dialogues across sectors and communities, creating safer spaces for South Africans to address underlying tensions, celebrate our shared identity, and collectively define the values that bind us. It is an investment in the intangible yet essential fabric of our nation, our sense of belonging, mutual respect, and shared destiny. Honorable members, the work of the presidency, the professionalization of the state, the pursuit of accountability, and the fostering of social cohesion is not a task of government alone. It requires the active participation and commitment of every South African. Honorable members, I'm certain that most of us in this democratic parliament would agree that we must call on our people to reject divisions and cynicism, actively participate in their communities and in the national dialogue, report corruption, hold all public representatives accountable through democratic instruments, champion the values of Ubuntu, respect, compassion, and shared humanity. The challenges we face are significant, but so is our collective resolve. Earlier, a discredited judge stood on this platform, reminding us why he became the first judge in history to be impeached. We remind South Africans that this disgraced former member of the bench.
Honorable Deputy Minister, just take your seat for a moment. I have hands in the chamber, and I have disruptions from the virtual platform. Let's go to the chamber first.
Ngiyakuthokoza Mgcinisihlalo. Okhuluma la angazi ukuthi ukhuluma ngejudge likuphi ijudge namhlanje la ngoba angasimislead angasileli into engasiyo ne angakhuluma into engekho akakhulume ngento ekhulunywa namhlanje la angakhuluma into engekho kufana nalabo abakhuluma ngoZuma la uZuma akekho la President Zuma is not in the house akuba bawe nje ukuthi akhe bajame ke bakhulume into ekhona siyazi kubhlungu.
Thank you, Honorable Skosana. You're not raising a point of order. You're making an argument. The Honorable Deputy Minister is within his rights to argue in this debate. I won't stop him at this point. Honorable Deputy Minister.
Sorry,
just
Speaker.
hold on. Let me just go to the virtual platform as well. Honorable Reddy, firstly, before you speak, the rules clearly state that you to raise your hand and then the table staff will alert me to it. Please don't unmute and speak again before you are recognized. Why do you want to be recognized?
Yes, Honorable Acting Speaker, I did raise my hand. I was not seen by the table staff, so you can't blame me for that. I had to speak so that you could recognize me. But I rise in terms of Rule 64 because there's something very seriously wrong that's going on at the moment. You've noticed that a lot of deputy ministers have been speaking, and we need to keep the decorum of the House in place, and let's protect it at all costs and ensure fair debate. These deputy ministers are here speaking as members of the cabinet, so that's where they need to confine their speeches to. When they start going into the politics of matters, then it seems that the ANC is getting a disproportionate time.
Honorable Reddy, thank you.
Honorable Reddy is debating.
It's
Thank
not
you.
a debate.
I've heard
I'm
you.
raising it in terms of
Honorable
Rule
Reddy.
64.
I'm ready to deal with this issue.
Okay.
Thank you. Honorable Reddy and honorable members. Deputy ministers, members of the executive are fully entitled to participate in the debates in this House. Speaking time, furthermore, is allocated in terms of decisions by the Rules Committee on which all parties are represented. We are not going to prosecute what some members may experience as a disproportionate allocation of time during a plenary session of this House. Please take it to the Rules Committee. Honorable Deputy Minister, please continue.
Thank you very much. We remind South Africans that this disgraced former member of the bench was impeached following allegations of improper interference in a constitutional court case involving former President Jacob.
Order, honorable members.
His impeachment followed an inquiry by the Judicial
Honorable Deputy Minister, my apologies. Please take your seat. Honorable member at the back, why do you want to be recognized?
I'm rising on Rule 68.
the deputy minister is irrelevant. And secondly, the
Yeah.
people on the ground are asking who is this deputy minister.
But
because we
what
don't
is
know
this
him.
thing now?
Thank you.
What is this thing?
Thank you,
We don't
honorable
know you.
No.
Who are you?
honorable member.
No,
Honorable
Who are
member.
you?
It's not allowed this thing, Honorable House Chair, and you're allowing
Yeah.
me. Order.
Table staff, please assist in muting members on the virtual platform. Honorable member, I will deal with your point of order about relevance. Order. In the context of how that debate has transpired, your member who has just previously in this debate spoke at length about his perception. Order. I'm on the floor. Honorable member, if you're going to keep on interrupting me while I'm speaking, I'm going to act in terms of the rules. Your member who previously spoke at length to put an argument about his view on successes of previous administrations. I will give the Deputy Minister latitude to speak about the plans and what he deems to be the successes of the current administration in this debate. Deputy Minister, please continue.
His impeachment followed an inquiry by the Judicial Service Commission, which found him guilty of gross misconduct. Yet today, this former judge advocates for ministers to be dismissed without due process. The very due process he was afforded in an attempt to clear his name.
Speaker,
He failed spectacularly.
virtual
Honorable
platform,
Deputy
please.
Minister, please take your seat. Honorable Skosana, why do you want to be recognized now?
Ngiyakuthokoza mqinisalo. Honorable member. Akakhulumi into esizoyikhuluma la namhlanje. Ukhuluma ngejaji, ijaji alikho ngisayiphinda lento. Sibawa ukuthi akhulume into elanga phakathi. Last now, honorable member.
Honorable Skosana and honorable members, we've dealt with this issue. The ruling is final. The ruling is final. I'm not going to entertain further points of order on this matter. The Honorable Deputy Minister is allowed to take part in the debate. Honorable Skosana, I'm warning you now. Please do not persist with this type of interruption.
Let me regurgitate this point.
Speaker,
This former judge advocates for ministers to be dismissed without due process.
Speaker,
Honorable
The very same
Deputy
he was
Minister,
afforded
Honorable
in an
Deputy
attempt
Minister,
to clear his name.
Honorable Deputy Minister,
He failed spectacularly.
please just take your seat for a moment. Honorable Reddy, is that a new point of order?
yes, it is. May I proceed?
Yes.
Honorable member, what is the relevance of this unknown minister?
No,
making
Honorable
these
Reddy.
points? There's no
No,
relevance
Honorable
to the
Reddy.
debate on presidency.
That's not how one
Reddy's
raises a
board,
point
man.
of order by
Honorable
asking the
Reddy,
member
can
at
you
the
remove
platform
him? Can
a
you please
question.
remove Reddy? No.
I also see the hand on the virtual platform of Honorable Lowe.
House Chair, can you really deal with the behavior of Honorable Reddy? He's really out of order. He's been disturbing the House for 3 times with irrelevant out of order. And you're allowing it. He's even calling you without even raising your hand. Please deal with it. We are begging you.
Thank you, Honorable Lowe. Honorable Gabu on the virtual platform has a hand up.
No, thank you very much, House Chair. I'm rising on Rule 66 of the Rules, Chair. That really deals with an interruption of the Speaker on the podium. There is a well-coordinated effort from some members who are behaving like a rented crowd, disrupting the Deputy Minister while he's presenting. Can you protect the Deputy Minister from this rented crowd, Chair? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Order, honorable members. Members are entitled to raise points of order. I've dealt with those. What we need to do now is to allow the Deputy Minister to proceed with the debate. We are not yet at the point where we are going to say that this is going to start getting grossly disorderly. But honorable members, let me add to that immediately. if you are going to persist with raising the same types of points of order with which I've dealt with, which are aimed at disrupting the speaker at the podium whilst he's taking part in this debate, I will go to that specific rule. Honourable Deputy Minister, please continue.
Our democratic project is not going to be derailed by...
Honourable Deputy Minister, my apologies. Honourable Van Rooyen, why do you want to be recognised?
Thank you, Chair. Rule 85, there was an earlier submission from the visual platform indicating that some people are making inputs here because they are a rented crowd. I don't think that is parliamentary. It's casting aspersion. Can you please rule on that?
Yeah, thank you. That specific member didn't name names. And I've dealt with that specific intervention. Let's allow now the Deputy Minister to proceed.
In 2024, we established the Print and Digital Media Transformation and Revitalization Steering Committee comprising the CEOs of Media 24, Caxton, MGDA, Arena, Daily Maverick, Mail and Guardian, Independent Media, and AIP. Their mandate was to collaborate on identifying the best interventions to revitalize both community and commercial print media in the digital era. Soon we will release the final report, which outlines actionable and recommendations for implementation. However, Honorable Botlani, you are already well aware of these developments, as I have extensively reported on these matters in the Portfolio Committee. Honorable President, just about this time tomorrow, we will be unveiling a state-of-the-art studio donated through the MDDA to One KZN TV. We are committed to developing and diversifying our media landscape. Community broadcasting speaks to the heartbeat of the nation, the local, the personal, the cultural, and the often unheard voices. This is the legacy of your leadership. This budget vote for the presidency equips the center of government to lead with constitutional fidelity, to drive the building of a capable and ethical state, and to foster unity we so deeply need. Let us move forward, not as a splintered voice, but as a nation united in purpose. Let us build a South Africa that truly belongs to all those who live in it, united in our diversity and prosperous in our shared future, as envisioned by our patriots such as Ms. Teresa Solomon. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Zibi.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Honourable President and Honourable Members, I rise to talk about the importance of retaining a sensible perspective on the place in which we find ourselves as a nation today. The various programs of government outlined in the various budget votes over the last 2 weeks are being drowned out by national anger and frustration. I share this anger and frustration, Mr. President. Honourable Chair, it is abnormal for a senior police commissioner to hold a press conference in the full camouflage gear of a specialized assault unit. It says those who have sworn to protect us are ready to go to war with one another over an evidently broken law enforcement system. Mr. President, while we welcome the appointment of a Judicial Commission of Inquiry, we must also reflect on how we got to this moment. We have had a string of senior police officers and national police commissioners who've either operated under a cloud or have been arrested. That has sapped the confidence of the public in law enforcement. We now live in a low-trust environment where South Africans wonder why we spend time debating here while they must fend for themselves outside. A low-trust environment, Mr. President, is one where tolerance for due process is low and the people look for alternatives outside democratic structures to address their needs. In this budget vote last year, I said we do not have the luxury of time, and that is truer today than it was last year. As necessary as a commission of inquiry may be, what angers South Africans is the sense that there is no willingness to act decisively before such inquiries become necessary. South Africans are asking for a sense of urgency from the executive in dealing with corruption and lawlessness. Yes, numerous cases are in the courts, but what frustrates South Africans is that it takes so long for those responsible to be charged, let alone to be sent to prison. It sends a message that our systems of accountability are paralyzed against those who either have power or have proximity to it. An increasing number of people speak of their preference for a military dictatorship in our country because they believe it will not be constrained by due process and will deliver the agency they so deeply crave. Let us show South Africans that democracy can deliver accountability, development, opportunity, and the hope of a better future. Mr. President, you have a special responsibility to lead in such a way that South Africans begin to believe again. Faith in democracy is declining. You can revive it. When the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry delivers its report, please do not just hand it to the Speaker. I ask that you write to the Speaker and ask her to convene Parliament so that you can tell South Africans how you will use the awesome power of the executive presidency vested in your hands to begin to set things right. People are tired of process, promises, and long, complicated plans. They want to see action so they can feel galvanized to join in turning our country around. This is an opportunity of a lifetime that we must not squander. If we do, we will live to regret it. People are asking for decisive leadership. They want to see you angry, Mr. President, sharing the same anger that they have. And when we show that we are in line
Zibi,
with...
My apologies, just take your seat for a moment. Honorable Skosana, why do you want to be recognized now?
Ngiyakuthokoza Mgcinisihlalo. Bengicabanga ukuthi siku-budget speech, mara ngizwa sekukhulunywa into enye engayaziko ni. Ngibawa irrelevance yaleyo Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Skosana, no, you're not assisting the process. We've previously indicated speakers here can speak about as everyone, also from your party, as they wish. Honorable Zibi, please continue.
Thank you, Chair. He knows I'll deal with him in our committee when it comes there. In closing, House Chair, the time for action is now. We need less talk, we need more commitment and more action from the House and the Executive. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Maimane.
Honorable President, fellow South Africans, honorable members of this House, Bagai Tudumelang. President, I recall quite distinctly when you became elected as president, you used the words, honorable members need to stop looking at headlines. They need to begin to look for trend lines. I remember those words as I was preparing for this budget vote and began to ask myself the question, what are the trend lines, Mr. President? And in truth, when we look at the trend lines, Mr. President, more young people are entering the realm of the unemployed. Mr. President, more than half of our citizens are living below the upper poverty line, which effectively means that in the medium term, when we follow the trend lines, that more and more, we will be spending more on social grants than we will on any other function of government. Mr. President, when you look at the trend line of crime, 26,000 people were murdered last year. Were you to take their coffins and line them up, they would line up from your door in Hyde Park all the way to the Union buildings. As you drive that route every single day, Mr. President, realize that we're dealing with a serious problem of murder. Mr. President, I speak to you not as one who's leading in a peaceful time, but one leading in a wartime. You are leading in geopolitical terror force. You are leading in a time where our country is now asking that in a war, what we don't need is dialogue, consultation. What we perhaps need, Mr. President, is for you to then take decisive and strong action. And in this light, Mr. President, I want to say that whilst we heard from General Mkhwanazi, I think he confirmed something we all feel. Yes, the allegations are untested. But, Mr. President, I want to urge, if you felt it enough to institute a commission of inquiry, I wonder whether you feel it enough to ask the question, was Mr. Mchunu's actions ethical? And if they were not ethical, in your view, which is your prerogative, then I would urge you, Mr. President, that what we don't need is another ghost worker who's sitting at home whilst South Africans are struggling. What we desperately need is for you to take decisive action. And I would urge, Mr. President, that perhaps it wasn't time to appoint someone from outside the police. Perhaps we need to get to a point, Mr. President, where when we use the same provisions of the Constitution you used to appoint Mr. Kachalia, that we choose someone who is the best police person, the most ethical person to become the Minister of Police. When we get there, the force of policemen and women can say, here's someone that has been in the trenches with us and we can follow them. Mr. President, you have successfully working in the G20 and the global platform. I support your efforts. What I would really urge you is that as a third priority at the end of the G20 summit, the measurement cannot be we hosted meetings. The measurements must be like Japan, like India, who have hosted before us, to say investment increased. I want you to succeed, Mr. President, and that's the rest of the country. The fourth aspect is the fact that you went to Johannesburg and said that there were problems there. We need a strong local government, Mr. President. So let's not get into each other's way with what Minister Tlhabisa is doing and other actors. Let us be deliberate at salvaging local government. Lastly, Mr. President, I want to urge for the future of our country, let us be strong on an economic plan that guides the GNU. Otherwise, we are going to have budget vote 15 eventually, or version 15. We need strong priorities. We need an economy that works. Let's educate our young people. Let's limit priorities, and let's be decisive at delivering this country. So we reverse.
Thank you, Honorable Maimane.
I support the budget. Thank you, President.
Honorable Khanyile.
Honorable President, honorable members, the late former President Nelson Mandela once said, I quote, "It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become the head of the mine, that the child of a farm worker can become the president of a great nation. It is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another," close quote. Honorable members, it has become evident that as a country, we have a long way to go to realize what was said by the late former president in the quote I have just read. In 2018, the late former finance minister Tito Mboweni set aside the first budget to distribute sanitary towels to girl learners. This initiative was introduced because it became clear that a lot of girls from impoverished families miss days of school when they are on their periods. The National Treasury avails a budget allocation through the equitable share from the Department of Basic Education and Social Development. However, the National Treasury has left a loophole in allowing misuse of this allocation because it is allocated directly to provinces and is not ring-fenced for the purchase and distribution of the sanitary dignity packs to quintile 1 to quintile 3 schools. President, National Treasury should ring-fence the sanitary dignity budgets and place it where there's accountability and gender focus. This budget should be allocated to women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Reports reveal that some departments use the allocation on other staff, while girl learners miss out on school during their cycle. Mr. President, according to a report provided by law firm Bowman Gilfillan and signed by its Executive for Investigations, Joe Da Silva, in 2016-17 and 2017-18 financial years, only 24% of the 248 Gauteng schools received their share of the 106 million Dignity Packs project. The investigation further revealed the projects to have been riddled with alleged fraud, corruption, and criminal acts. The Dignity Packs report dates back to September 2020 and details how officials in provincial social development departments devise schemes to circumvent procurement processes to unlawfully and willfully enrich themselves and certain suppliers to the detriment of the girls. Shoki Shabalala, who is the former head of the Social Development Department, was implicated in the Dignity Pack report as being at the forefront of the alleged fraud and financial misconduct. She has now been rewarded with another position as the Deputy Director General for the Department in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. All this happens at the expense of a girl child who misses out days of school when on periods, and her dream of becoming a doctor diminishes under the watch of the ANC cadres. To date, that report gathers dust while the girl Lena misses days of school. Chairperson, more budget needs to be made available to address the issue of teenage pregnancy and statutory rape. There should be an allocation for community empowerment programs where communities are empowered on issues around their children's rights. The Children's Act 38 of 2005, under the Protection from Abuse, Neglect and Exploitation, Section 110, states that anyone who suspects abuse, neglect, or exploitation must report it to the designated social worker or the police. The Act requires mandatory reporting by professionals such as teachers and doctors. Honorable members, we are all aware that there are older men within our society who date young girls in the full view of teachers. And this goes unreported until these teenagers fall pregnant. And only when they're about to give birth, this issue is identified and recorded. We believe that preventative action should be explored. Hence, we need more resources allocated to empower our communities to ensure we prevent teenagers from engaging in early sex, and we protect them from being exploited by older men. Honorable Chair, we cannot overemphasize a desperate need for all departments to meet their 7% equity target on employment of youth, women, and persons with disabilities. We believe this will also give especially our young people a purpose in life, majority of whom have lost hope as a result. They indulge in drugs excessively. I'd also like to commend pioneers like Mr. Muloto, who runs Latgak, a rehabilitation center for drug addicts. We commend the exemplary work these South Africans are doing to turn the lives of these young people around. We hope government is going to do its best to meet them halfway by ensuring that job opportunities are created and that so that they can absorb these young people after they have been rehabilitated. Mr. President, in this current financial year, we would also like the government to pay more attention to addressing the issue of drug abuse and the access to drugs. When one looks at the reports of people convicted for selling drugs, it is concerning to observe that drug users know where to buy drugs, but South African Police Service doesn't know where or who these drug peddlers are. In some instances, where SAPS have apprehended drug peddlers, the number of people convicted raises a grave concern. As this House, we will need to look at the Justice Department to play its role. Honorable Chair, we will be conducting oversight visits in this financial period to ensure government rehabilitation centers are fully funded and resourced. The issue of the very long waiting list is addressed swiftly, and to ensure every young person who wants an opportunity to turn their lives around is not prohibited by the government's incompetence. Honorable Chair, South Africa has a national drug master plan since 2013, whose implementation is the responsibility of no less than 20 departments, 9 provinces, and local drug committee. But the Central Drug Authority, which has been mandated to coordinate the plan's implementation across government, has no resources, no authority, no standing. No wonder the country is struggling to make a dent on the scourge that is drug and substance abuse. We urge Social Development and the National Treasury to review the CDA's resource allocation for the sake of our youth and their future and the future of this country. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs.
House Chairperson, His Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, members of the executive, honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The Presidency stands as an apex office of the land, not by ceremonial accident, but by constitutional design. The constitutional architecture of our democratic order was deliberate in locating central executive authority within the President. It is through the office of the President that Cabinet is coordinated, intergovernmental relations are guided, and urgent national challenges are confronted with clarity and consistency. As the highest office in the land, the Presidency embodies the unity of the state, the strategic command of government, and the collective aspirations of our democratic society. In this budget vote debate, I would like to display the importance of the ability of the Presidency to lead the state, to see the furthest, and to put in place instruments necessary to bring visions into reality. On the 21st of July, 2020, Mr. President, you signed the Border Management Authority Bill into law. This was after decades wherein our borders were managed in a fragmented manner with multiple departments and agencies performing distinct functions, often with overlapping mandates and inadequate coordination. This was the cause to various border security and trade facilitation vulnerabilities. The BMA Act that you signed into law, Mr. President, gave effect to the establishment of a single integrated authority responsible for the management of the ports of entry and border law enforcement areas. This was not merely an administrative change, but a strategic necessity to secure our borders, protect our economy, and ensure the safety of our people. Today, the BMA has footprint in all South African ports of entry and identified vulnerable border law enforcement areas. They continue to intercept large consignments of illicit goods, which included cigarettes to the value of 640 million in the past 24 hours. The BMA has reduced human trafficking operations and the number of stolen vehicles crossing our borders. The BMA is leveraging on the use of various technologies to augment its capabilities in the border environment, as well as border management system for legitimate processing of people, goods, and risk profiling purposes. The deployment of advanced drones and body camera technology at the border yielded an increase of up to 215% in the detection and prevention of attempted illegal border crossings and the assumption and the interception of 114 people who are facilitating illegal migration within our border environment. And this was made possible by you, Mr. President, signing the BMA bill into law. To deal with corruption and risks, we strengthened the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster when we launched the Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum with the BMA, Special Investigating Unit, Directorate for Priority Crime Investigations, and the National Prosecuting Authority. This helps in dealing with corrupt officials and other rascals within our border environment. Now, government working closely with civil society remains committed to realizing the aspiration of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. Sexual offences courts continue to offer support services that are tailor-made for survivors of sexual offences. 19 sexual offences courts were established in accordance with the recently amended Section 55A of the Criminal Law Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act, which became operational on April 2024. This amendment, Chair, which brings it power, is that it empowers the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development to designate places of sitting, and sexual offences courts must be established, which means we'll soon have more of these courts that deal with this issue. During this financial year, government will increase the national footprint of sexual offences court, particularly in rural communities, and an additional 16 sexual offences courts will be established, with 2 more Tutuzela centers targeted to be opened. Over the 24-25 period, the National Prosecuting Authority recorded 3,697 convictions in relation to sexual offences, with over 79% of these convictions resulting to direct imprisonment, while 44,147 victims were supported at the 66 Tutuzela care centers. Bail provisions in GBV matters have been tightened, Important legislative amendments now ensure there is no more police or prosecutor bail in GBV matters. All GBV suspects must appear before court and apply for bail. The legislation now allows for online applications for domestic violence protection accessed remotely. The Department of Justice and Constitutional Development is at the final stages of the development of the online solution for applications for domestic violence protection orders. In your February 2023 State of the Nation address, President, you announced what is arguably the biggest paper records digitization project in Africa, set to digitize 350 million paper records. As we speak here today, 49 million records of civics services have been digitized. The project is also creating jobs for young graduates. In the current financial year, we will be digitizing 25 million more records. This project is a fundamental cog in the Home Affairs digital transformation journey, and it is also critical for South Africa's quest for digital identity, given its fundamental role in economic growth and social transformation. The conversion of manual paper-based files to citizens into digital records will allow us to easily access these records at a touch of a button. Now, this is what citizens expect from their government: faster, smarter, and convenient services at all times. We are now taking this further, President, working with the South African Revenue Services and the South African Reserve Bank. We are developing a robust digital identity for the country. This system will use facial recognition as the primary biometric modality, thereby enhancing national security and reducing the risk of fraud. The identity document revolutions from the archaic green ID book to the high-tech and secure smart ID card is in motion, Mr. President. As of the 14th of July 2025, we had issued just over 30,239,000 smart ID cards, pointing to progress made since the initiation of our modernization program. House Chairperson, the Home Affairs has issued a record of 3.5 million smart ID cards against a target of 2.5 million in the 24-25 financial year. This record of smart ID cards was achieved partly because we added 100 new mobile offices that we launched with yourself, President, on the 7th of May 2024 in Mokopane. The decisions and the actions we take affect the future progressively. Today, I was with the children of Masiphumelele Child Home, which really appreciated the services that we brought to them. President, on the 15th of October 2020, during the State of the Nation address, you announced phase 1 of Operation Vulindlela. Today, we are reaping the fruits of Operation Vulindlela recommendations through, amongst others, the Trusted Employer Scheme, the Trusted Tour Operator Schemes. The Trusted Employer Scheme allows qualifying companies to verify documents of skilled workers they wish to bring to South Africa. It shortens the adjudication process, in return promoting South Africa as a sought-after investment destination. The online Trusted Tour Operator Scheme is boosting tourism from the major sources of markets of China and India. Since February this year, 17,000 Chinese and Indian tourists have obtained visas to come to South Africa undaunted. The tourists who came through the Trusted Tour Operator Scheme have created about 1,230 jobs. This is set to grow as we grow this particular scheme. So let no one say we are not pushing forward with job creation. We are now building a working prototype of the electronic travel authorization system for tourist visas before expanding to more visa categories. When completed, it will digitize visa processes and enhance efficiencies while curbing corruption. House Chairperson, we must always be reminded of the words that preachers of past failures are detractors of success of the present, and they jeopardize the future. As such,
Honorable Deputy Minister, can you please take a seat? There's a point of order. Honorable Shabalala. Honorable members, can you please afford a member that I have recognized? Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Chair. Sekundamba, man. I rise on Rule 62. Eye contact. Deputy Minister is just reading. Talk to us.
Honorable Member, that is not a point of order.
It is Rule 62. It's in the rule book.
Honorable Member. an honorable member on the podium is allowed to refresh his or her mind in looking at the notes that he has drafted. So that is not a point of order. Please continue, Deputy Minister.
I have no interest at looking at the honorable member. As chairperson, people must decide whether they
Honorable
want to
Deputy
be
Minister,
opposition.
can you please take your seat?
Chair, on a
Yes.
point of order, that is very misogynistic thing to be
I
saying
can't
here
hear
in
you.
Parliament. No, Chair, on a point of order, it's very misogynistic for him to say he's got no interest to look in. He did not say that honorable member did not say she wants eye contact. And then we have men here in Parliament that everything is reduced to something that there must be eye contact that we want to look at. Then we must withdraw that. It's unnecessary.
No, honorable member. You see, when you start raising a point of order and throwing in jabs, you must not have a thin skin, because when you get the response, there's nothing that is unparliamentary that the deputy minister has said. So I am ruling on that. No, I did not recognize you. Switch off the mic. I did not recognize you.
You also support
Please, honorable deputy minister, take the podium.
People must decide, House Chair, whether they want to be opposition or play a role in providing solutions towards building a better South Africa. You cannot claim to be part of building when there are successes, whilst wielding and ushering a hammer of destruction on the other hand. Administrative obstructionism and hostility towards the programs and operations of the state only serve to weaken the states that we were sought to serve. Lastly, House Chair, we must always bear in mind that a dialogue is not optional if the nation is serious about unity and peace. It is through dialogue that misunderstandings are dismantled, grievances add, and tensions are diffused before they erupt into conflict. Where there is no dialogue, suspicions grow, divisions deepen, and violence erupts. Dialogue forces society to confront hard truths, to listen and to act not in isolation, but together. It builds empathy, restores trust, and ensures that every voice is heard, especially of those who have been historically silenced. We will not allow detractors, Mr. President, to strive. We must continue to look forward and work harder to create a better future for our people. On House Chairperson, the Presidency remains the embodiment of South African state. It must be strengthened, defended, and respected. We support this budget vote.
Thank you very much. I will now recognize the Honorable Zungula.
Bandikubulise mongameli. Ungazuntyhola ubandikubulise. Your presidency, mongameli, has been characterized by panels, task teams, commissions of inquiries that cost billions, but with no tangible results. Every time there's a crisis that requires bold and courageous leadership, you outsource the responsibility to a panel, a task team, or commission of inquiry. These panels produce reports but dololo action. There are no tangible actions taken on the Zondo Commission, the Mufamadi panel on intelligence, and the Sandy Africa review on the 2021 unrest. Mr. President, the allegations made by an entire police commissioner that a minister is embedded with criminal syndicates requires more than paid leave, especially that the minister himself confirmed some of the allegations. The minister lied to Parliament, and that is enough to take decisive action against him. President, it is a well-known fact that unemployment, poverty, crime and corruption has increased under your leadership. Unemployment in 2018 was 36%, now it is 43%. 30 million people lived in poverty in 2018, now it is 42 million. 52 people were murdered per day in 2018, now it is 64 people. All these indicators paint to a reality that we have failed to improve the lives of citizens. No matter the spinning or positive media coverage you can get. This is the lived experience of the citizens. Even when you address the country, it is always, we'll do this, we'll do that. You've been saying we will since February 2018. There is no single success story where you can say the government has, under your leadership, reduced unemployment, poverty, crime, or corruption. Mr. President, people elect their representatives to parliament, which is the voice of the people. You can't, as president, undermine and gaslight the people by having a national dialogue outside the elected representatives of the people. The parties in parliament, whether you like them or not, represent the unfiltered voices of the people. What the country needs now is frank conversations that can come from the elected representatives of the people. We all know, Mr. President, that the so-called national dialogue already has predetermined outcomes, just like the CODESA that left the economy untransformed, that did not return the land to its original owners, and gave us a constitution that did not advance justice for the brutal...
Honorable Zungula, please take your seat. What are you raising on, Deputy Minister?
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable member is misleading the House when he says unfiltered views. MK is Nkandla filter, EFF is CIC filter. It's all these filters.
Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Deputy Minister, honorable members, please, can we not call out unnecessary point of orders? It was very unnecessary for that, and it will not be sustained. Continue, Honorable Zungula.
Spending 700 million for an exercise that seeks to delegitimize a constitutional institution of parliament is telling the people their voices do not matter. And we are calling the people that have been named as part of the eminent persons to decline, as their participation endorses the subtle erosion of democratic institutions. Even your group of elite eminent persons shows exactly the problem in the governance of the country, where the rich, famous, and politically connected get a seat at the table to discuss national issues, and the voice of the poor is not heard. And when the poor, unemployed people express themselves, the state meets them with aggression and violence at worst, or arrogance at best. South Africans want a safe country, controlled migration, enough healthcare workers and healthcare facilities, an enabling business environment, jobs, a transformed economy, drug-free communities, food securities and land. South Africans reject this insulting national dialogue. We reject an elitist program that does not represent the people of this country from Gokwana to Msobomvu to Venda. Lastly, Mr. President, Itsolubuza, did you return those dollars zasepalapal? Were the buffaloes ever collected, okanye they are still a palapal? We reject this bill.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I will now recognize Honorable Musa. Honorable members, it is Honorable Musa's maiden speech. Can we please then be kind? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. His Excellency, the Honorable President, Matimela Cyril Ramaphosa, and our chosen gifts of God, the esteemed honorable members of this Parliament and our great nation, and our fellow beloved family South Africans. I greet you in the name of Almighty, the most gracious, the most merciful. I stand before you today with humility and deep gratitude for the honor of representing Al-Jama in this esteemed parliamentary house. I am committed to serve with integrity and compassion under the wise and principled leadership of my party's leader, Honorable Hanif Hendricks, who is the Deputy Minister of Social Development. I express my heartfelt appreciation to my beloved wife and Al-Jama constituencies who supported me throughout my journey from becoming a ward councillor.
Honorable members, can we please give an opportunity to the member on the podium? The howling is too much now. We can't even hear what the member is saying.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I express my heartfelt appreciation to my beloved wife and Al-Jama constituencies who supported me throughout my journey from becoming a ward councillor at grassroots level to a member of parliament. I also thank Advocate Councillor Shamima Sali for having stood in for me for the past year and having demonstrated resilience throughout the period she served as a member of parliament. Many of us in this house made sacrifices for a free, democratic, and economically viable country. Our fight was not just against racial oppression, but for economic freedom, free from colonialism and imperialism. Al-Jamaa welcomes that the presidency has listed 3 strategic priorities, including the promoting inclusive growth, job creation, poverty reduction, and building a capable, ethical, and developmental state. We acknowledge the many strides made to improve the lives of South Africans, and the President's promise of a hot plate of food is a serious commitment to the nation, and the Presidency's commitment and strategy to bring about 0% hunger should become a reality. For inclusive development, government strategic priorities should continue to focus on poverty reduction and high cost of living to realize the aims for creating a capable, ethical, and developmental state. South Africa still ranks high globally in terms of inequality. The vast majority of previously disadvantaged communities are still excluded from participating in the economy, and these include groups such as youth, women, and unemployed who continue to be denied meaningful participation in the economy. A developmental state should be geared to empower future leaders. The students at universities and colleges continue to study on empty stomachs, which impacts negatively on their mental health and well-being. Unemployment, violent crime rates, gender-based violence, drug abuse, and trafficking are increasing, and drastic action is needed to remove corrupt officials and ministers. We have seen in a number of areas a deterioration in governance, a decline in the delivery of services, and widespread corruption and wastage of public resources. Let us hero forward to work proactively, positively towards a just, united, and prosperous South Africa. Malibongwe.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I will now recognize Honorable Michalakis.
I support the budget.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. House Chairperson, late last year, the DA proposed the setting up of a committee to oversee the presidency. This was supported by the majority of parties in the Rules Committee. It was then referred to the subcommittee on the rules to formulate and suggest what the new rules to regulate the function and powers of this committee should look like. The origin of this stems from the work done in the 6th Parliament in the Rules Committee, but also the Zondo Commission report, which states that, and I quote, it would be a good idea for Parliament to establish a committee to exercise oversight over acts or omissions by the President and the Presidency, which are not in any event subject to adequate oversight by other portfolio committees. It is not correct that everything for which the President is responsible is delegated to a minister or department outside the Presidency. Our recent history also shows that the President's conduct is not always subjected to adequate oversight by the existing portfolio committees, and a process to enable the President's conduct to be subjected to more scrutiny than is feasible in a plenary session of the National Assembly would therefore appear to be beneficial, close quote. It was the lack of such a committee, among other things, that prevented Parliament from calling then President Zuma to account for allegations against him as one of the primary enablers of state capture. It is the continued lack of such a committee that will ensure that future presidents will be equally unaccountable unless it is set up. Smaller parties may all now scramble to claim that they had a hand in the setting up of such a committee, yet many of them during the debate a few weeks ago on the last report of the Rules Committee did not even know that the Rules Committee referred this to the subcommittee in the first place. It's nice to beat that drum, but they in effect had no idea where in the process we are with this, what is required, or how it will come about. In fact, fewer than a handful of parties, among which the DA is one, have made submissions to the subcommittee on what such a committee on the presidency should look like. I repeat, When the chance recently was there to make suggestions on what such a committee should look like, fewer than a handful of parties in Parliament made suggestions. The DA was one. Most of the smaller parties that are beating that drum today made absolutely no contribution whatsoever. I hope that when we get to voting for such a committee, that they will at least be in the room to do so. Speaker, the main argument against such a committee is that the ministries within the presidency already account to the portfolio committees, and there is therefore oversight already. I'm going to leave the debate that there are too many such ministries falling within the presidency aside for a moment and focus on the main problems with this argument itself. Firstly, the DG in the presidency does not account to a single portfolio committee or select committee. He is the only DG who does not do so, she. The most senior civil servant in the country is wholly unaccountable to Parliament. Apart from that, Parliament has absolutely no opportunity to engage the President or his deputy on matters of national importance or public policy other than oral questions and the State of the Nation address, which happens once a year. And we all know that the President is rather skillful in answering questions in the House. It's no effective oversight mechanism on its own. We are not calling for the head of government to appear before Parliament like other cabinet members on a weekly basis. We are simply calling for an accountability mechanism through which he and his deputy and the DG of this department can come and account. The President himself is responsible for giving policy direction to his government, yet Parliament cannot scrutinize these policies in depth other than a few oral questions. And the Deputy President, as leader of government business, only deals with, in many instances, questions around his position through correspondence or through the Speaker. Madam Speaker, House Chairperson, it is therefore important that the subcommittee gets going on these rules as a matter of urgency and for us to discuss and consider what such a committee would look like in the public interest. The DA will, as we were in the decision to set it up, be at the forefront of discussing the details around it, and we hope that all parties in Parliament will support the product of such subcommittee in the interest of accountability in a country where Parliament has lost the public trust already. I'm absolutely sure that the President, in his reply tomorrow, will welcome the opportunity to engage Parliament in such a way as an opportunity to be open and transparent about the workings of his department and the government in its entirety and its policies. Only when we can say that this House has oversight over the very heart and epicenter of the government can we truly claim to have oversight over government itself, as the Constitution requires of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I'll now recognize the Honorable Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Mhlaun.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, the Honorable President of the Republic, Honorable Madam Speaker, the Chief Whip of the ANC, Honorable members, as well as distinguished guests. Honorable members, it has been exactly 12 months since the establishment of the Government of National Unity. Therefore, part of our reflection here today as we debate is the extent to which we have made an impact in addressing the needs of our people. That, as you said, Mr. President, at the beginning, is the true measure of the success of this particular government. Now, we all know that 10 parties, minus the one that then reneged, signed the statement of intent committing to constitutional order and the rule of law. Some of those parties who signed the statement of intent today wish they can throw away the Constitution because it hinders their relentless pursuit of plunging this country into a crisis with the continued fake news that they spread about the government that they form a part of. Now, Honorable Burke, if the GNU is the best thing that has ever happened to this country, as you said, then why is your faction of the DA hell-bent on destabilizing it? It is your party that has been at the forefront of schizophrenic behavior of wanting to enjoy the perks of being part of government, but at the same time spreading fake news about the very same government. Now, in fact, the Honorable Zibi some time ago correctly characterized the DA as a party of extortionists. People who want to use their membership of the GNU as a means to continue to extort us out of the very important transformative policies that this country needs. However, Mr. President, we remain resolute to confront that which affects our people the most, especially young people who continue to bear the brunt of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. Through the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention and cross-cutting coordination with social partners, we are shifting the dial and scaling solutions that are showing real impact. One of the most promising interventions we are leading is the Jobs Boost program, a groundbreaking outcomes-based employment model. The Jobs Boost Fund is a 300 million pay-for-performance initiative currently being piloted. This program, which is currently in its pilot phase, seeks to connect 4,500 of the most marginalized young people in our country to sustainable quality jobs. It is among the largest outcomes funds globally dedicated to youth employment. What makes the Jobs Boost Fund particularly powerful is its laser focus on inclusion and results. This program targets young people who have matriculated from Quintile 1 to Quintile 3 schools or have received social grant support and who have no formal post-school qualifications. These are the young people who are at risk of long-term exclusion. Jobs Boost ensures that they are placed in high-quality jobs that are employer-paid and monitors whether these young people remain in jobs. To date, 12 implementing partners have begun rolling out this program, and since its launch in September 2024, we've seen 4,136 young people placed in sustainable jobs. 1,543 of them have been in these jobs for at least 3 months, and another 825 have been in those particular jobs for 6 months or longer. These are not just numbers. They represent young people's lives that have been changed. They represent families who now have a steady income. This pilot will conclude in December 2025, and early indicators suggest that Jobs Boost will not only meet its targets, but will also set a new benchmark for how we tackle youth unemployment. We therefore look forward to scaling this program in 2026 in partnership with our private sector partners and donors. Linked to the success is the growing impact of SAYouth.mobi that the President spoke about. As reported, Mr. President, that SA Youth has grown to over 4.7 million registered users. Now, Honorable Trollip, the 1.7 earning opportunities that the President quoted are not fictitious. These are real people with real stories of hope, development, and transformation. One such is a young lady by the name of Malibongwe Ntuli, who joined the Year Beyond program via SAYouth.mobi after matriculating in 2024. She volunteered as the library assistant at the Delft Library in Cape Town, and in actual fact, in April 2025, she actually got a permanent job with the South African Air Force. Again, Honorable Trollip, this is what inclusive development looks like. When we design systems intentionally to serve the poor and unemployed, we bend the trajectory of this country towards justice and shared prosperity. These achievements are not accidental. They are a result of the strong coordination led by the Presidency and the tireless work of government departments and delivery partners across the state. As we move forward, we invite all partners.
Honorable Zolega, please mute your mic.
As we move forward, we invite all social partners of our society to be part of the solution. The Jobs Boost model demonstrates the power of partnership. Equally so, the SA Youth platform thrives because of cooperation between government, business, and civil society. Now, Honorable Gama, the reason that we needed Operation Vulindlela is precisely to fix the logistics crisis that you and your Gupta criminal network broke, to borrow from the words of your honorable leader, who actually stole a speech by Honorable Mamane that he delivered in 2015. It is under your watch, Honorable Gama, as CEO of Transnet, that the Transnet locomotive scandal started. And of course, you will know about consultants because of your history with the regiments Trillian, McKinsey & Co. Honorable Gama, you speak about the Honorable Montana and the time that he was at PRASA. Perhaps what you must also tell us is what happened to the fake engineer Tim Kulu that he introduced to us on national TV. Okanye ichomi zakhe ezilishumi that he transported with the blue train from Pretoria to Cape Town for the Cape Town Jazz Festival. It is under him that our trains were left unreliable, underserviced, financially unsustainable, and completely broken, again, to borrow from you guys. The presidency under President Ramaphosa is fixing the mess of this particular caucus. We recount the words of Joel Nechitense when he said, the beneficiaries of state capture will not go down without a fight. I also wish to highlight the responsibilities of Deputy President Mashatile, who is on official assignment abroad, of course, whose work continues to strengthen
Now,
the
Deputy
presidency's
Minister, can you
leadership
please
role.
take your seat? Honorable Skosana. What are you rising on?
Thank you, Chair. And the honorable member take a question because she has an issue as well.
No. You're asking me.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Chair.
I will ask on your behalf. Yes. Honorable Deputy Minister, can you take a question? Honorable members, on a serious note, I do not understand this excitement because there is a point of order and there's a request if a deputy minister can take a question. I can't even hear the response because you are howling to a point of I cannot hear from where I'm sitting. Can we please be orderly? Honorable Deputy Minister, can you take a question?
No, Honorable Chairperson. I refuse to take a question from the Gupta Criminal Network.
Thank you, Honorable Skosana. She will not take a question. Thank you. She will not take a question. Continue, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Now, I cannot sit down without addressing the complete lie again spread by the Honorable Bergman about our very
Honorable Deputy Minister, please take your seat again. Honorable Skosana, what's the point?
Chair, let me say this to you under the rule. And I will show.
Under which rule?
Let me give you a rule. Rule number 64. Uti Gupta network. Gupta network. Uye number one wako. Nangasfagi thina.
You are debating. Chair, no, this man is debating.
Honorable Skosana. Honorable Skosana, I'm going to caution you now. Your point of orders, there is no such a point in Rule 64. It has never spoken about Guptas and other members being members of the Guptas. So please, can we stop with the spurious point of orders? I'm cautioning you now. Honorable Deputy Minister, please continue.
Now, Honorable Chairperson, before...
Honorable Deputy Minister, can you please take a seat again? Honorable Michalakis.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. House Chairperson, I rise on the rule indicating that a member cannot cast aspersions on another member. The Deputy Minister, before she even completes that sentence, I want to ask you to stop her there, because the first words that she said was, I want to refer back to the lies that the Honorable Bergman is spreading. Firstly, she did not get up on a point.
Honorable members.
Firstly, House Chairperson, she did not get up on a point of order at that point to indicate that he's misleading the House. So she's missed that opportunity. And secondly, insinuating or actually saying directly that another member is lying to this House is unparliamentary, and she should withdraw and not continue with that sentence. Thank you.
Honorable members, can I please not get your assistance, especially from the right-hand side? I'm not sure what is wrong with the members of the ANC today, but honestly, what you are doing is incorrect. You are howling to a point that we cannot listen to other members who are calling point of orders. Honorable Michalakis, I did not hear the Deputy Minister pointing at a member saying that they've lied. But if that has happened, we'll then revert to Hansard and come back with that. I cannot rule now because, as I have said, members are howling to a point of I cannot hear from where I'm sitting what the member on the podium is saying. So I will come back to that point, but I will ask the member to refrain from doing so if she has done that, because it is unparliamentary to call a member of parliament a liar. You may continue, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Okay, let me address Honorable Bergman, who was very economical with the truth insofar as Stats SA is concerned. Honorable members, that Census 2022 stands
Honorable
on
Deputy
rigorous...
Minister, please take your seat again. Honorable Michalakis.
Thank you, House Chairperson. We saw it just now. The minister deliberately rephrased, and then she said, let's say that he was very economical with the truth. Saying that someone is economical with the truth and saying that someone has lied is exactly the same thing, House Chairperson.
No, Honorable Michalakis, I'm going to rule you out of order on that one.
House Chairperson, it is the second time that the Deputy Minister has done this, and I would like to ask you to rule on it, or at least go back to the Hansard and then rule on it.
No, Honorable Michalakis. That is not under the unparliamentary gestures or words. So I will rule you out of order on that one and will continue, Deputy Minister. You may continue, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Now, the Census 2022...
Honorable Deputy Minister, please take your seat again. Honorable Trolley.
Honorable Chairperson, I think you're missing a trick. There's a very simple way to ascertain whether the Deputy Minister called the member a lie or not when you said you couldn't hear. Ask her. Ask her if she said that. And let's see what she answers.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Trolley, but that is not a point of order, and I will allow the Deputy Minister to continue. IT, can you please remove DM Zoleka?
Now, the Census 2022 stands on rigorous methodology and follows the UN guidelines on population and housing census. While as a country we did record an undercount, the census remains on solid scientific methods. Stats SA went through 3 stages of census verification. The first one is the fieldwork that reached out to 7.4 million households and 42 million people. The second is the post-enumeration survey, which helps Stats SA calculate the undercount in all geographical levels by gender and age cohorts. And the third one is the evaluation by the Stats Council, a body that is independent of Stats SA. All these 3 stages, evaluated by local and international experts, confirmed that Stats SA is credible. Therefore, I want to reassert today that our Census 2022 was not only credible, but also fit for purpose. Now, before I conclude, I think it is also our responsibility to teach the ones in red the Constitution. We do understand that it might be difficult for an organization where the supreme leader is actually the Constitution, and surely they think that we operate the same way. Now, the Honorable Chief Whip of the EFF came and stood here and said that the President acted outside of the Constitution. I have a copy there. I'm going to give it to you to refer to Chapter 5 of the Constitution, which speaks about the President.
He doesn't need you to teach her the Constitution.
Section 91, subsection 3C states that the President may select 2 ministers outside of the National Assembly.
Ministers, not
Section 98 further gives the President the powers to assign to a member of cabinet any power or function of another member who is out of office. Now, to the red ones is, unless Honorable Mandasha is not a member of cabinet, I really don't know what the Honorable Noluchungu was harping on about. Perhaps it's best that the cult leader, who usually takes up all of the minutes of the EFF, continues to do that to avoid all of this confusion that we see here today. And lastly, before I sit down, the day we sidestep due process on matters.
Honorable Deputy Minister, your time has expired.
Uyapapa lo deputy minister wena
and you are
he's not a member of parliament.
Is there a member from NCC? I will now recognize the Minister of Land Reform and Rural Development.
Chairperson,
The budget vote speech delivered by His Excellency President Ramaphosa is well received and welcomed. We are particularly encouraged by the key message that our collective success as a government is measured only by our ability to improve the lives of our people. It is important to note that our efforts to improve the lives of our people is also impacted on by developments and conflicts that occur in other parts of the world. It is in this difficult and uncertain environment that our unity as a nation is paramount. Negative and disparaging comments that arise from within this country and indeed from some within government only hurt the most vulnerable people whose lives we are seeking to improve. It is exactly the harmful, short-sighted and immature political point-scoring comments that underscores the need for a national dialogue. 30 years into our democracy, our people continue to suffer from the actions of the few that wish to promote disunity. The cost of this disunity is felt every day by millions of poor people, and the outcome should be directed here, not the cost of the national dialogue. Our people continue to face high levels of unemployment, and our country continues to show slow economic growth. Mr. President, the national challenges that you have outlined facing the people we wish to serve is most pronounced within the rural areas of this country. Rural communities face entrenched poverty, fragile infrastructure, and limited access to markets and services. Without targeted rural development, the promise of a united, prosperous nation remains incomplete. Your reference to youth unemployment as a critical need that must urgently be addressed is commendable and supported. We support the initiatives that speak to an inclusive economy and note with great anticipation your reference to tourism, hemp and cannabis, and rare minerals mining that will benefit poor rural communities. For too long, we viewed the rural poor being part of a second under-resourced economy that views rural communities as suppliers of cheap labor. The majority of poor people rely on the safety and security the police provide, and their confidence in the police service must be prioritized. We therefore support the Commission of Inquiry into allegations of corruption within the police service. Let me conclude by also expressing our support for the Kambembe Commission. For the Kambembe Commission, I wish to highlight the Apartheid Special Forces raid on the Mbendulo household in Umtata that resulted in the brutal murder of 5 young children. We want answers and prosecution of perpetrators. In fact, we are calling for an inquest to be opened about the death of Mbendulo children. President, as PAC, we rejected CODESA, we rejected, and what is it, even a clip down, including the peace accord. Kule game siphakathi inside.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I will now recognize the Honorable Deputy Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition.
Hosanna, how are you? Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson, Honorable President, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, and all honorable members. Mr. President, except for the occasional ad hominem attacks, I don't think the strategic issues that you outlined here have been in dispute. And on your proposed strategy to deal with low economic growth in order to tackle poverty, inequality, and unemployment, I'll try to give just some detail on the path forward. The VETS academic, Professor Imran Valodia, reminds us that the top 0.1% of South Africans holds 25% of our nation's wealth. In stark contrast, the bottom 50% of our population lives in a state of negative wealth, meaning that their debts exceed their assets. And that accounts for majority of the working class, the middle class, and the rural poor. Our income distribution is that much terrible that we are one of the most unequal societies in the world. Now, the World Bank, in an important policy paper released this February, commenting on how South Africa must deal with its endemic inequality problem, states that, and I quote, "The state will have to focus on making growth as inclusive as possible by extending economic opportunities to all, with an effective redistribution policy and by correcting market failures. And Honorable House Chair, on this score, we agree wholeheartedly with the World Bank. And on this point, our Constitution sets a very high bar. It boldly proclaims, and I quote again, to promote the achievement of equality, legislative and other measures designed to protect or advance persons or categories of persons disadvantaged by unfair discrimination may be taken, close quote. And that is our national goal, the achievement of equality. Inclusive economic growth is a vital part of that equality. Now, one of the main markers of the developmental state that we strive to build is the creation of a national economy that generates and distributes wealth as equitably as is possible. And generally, to achieve this outcome, developmental states work on industrial strategies that help them achieve high economic growth, create decent jobs for millions of their citizens, and capture a significant global market as a backbone of demand to support their growth. Now, honorable members, our economic strategy is explicitly designed to advance this strategic orientation for South Africa. Through our industrial strategy and measures such as the Transformation Fund, we are laying the foundation for an inclusive, reindustrialized economy that creates decent jobs and unlocks opportunities. We do so in the context of significant global shifts. The world is undergoing deep structural transformation, accelerated by technological competition, environmental pressures, and geopolitical and trade fallouts. In order to adjust the South African economy, framed around three pillars, which is diversification, digitalization, and decarbonization. Now, on the diversification front, there's about 4 elements. The first one is it's about reducing the dependence of our economy on narrow network of export markets and deepening trade with faster growing economies, especially on our continent and middle income countries elsewhere. It is also about shifting our export profile towards more value-added products, and the benefit in terms of jobs, taxes, and economic growth are much higher when we export a car made from local steel compared to exporting a ton of iron ore. It also includes transforming industrial ownership and leadership. Many of our established industrialists are nearing retirement. We need to empower a new generation of innovative, young, skilled, and mostly Black youth to lead reindustrialization in South Africa. Our economy is also highly concentrated, and we have a relatively small SMME sector, whereas SMMEs of all types are required to add dynamism and innovation into the economy in order to improve competition and lead to reduction in prices. On the digitalization front, South Africa is a youthful nation and must optimally use this demographic profile to stake our claim in the global technological frontier. Our digitally savvy population, combined with existing pockets of high-quality IT services, gives South Africa a natural advantage in the digital economy. And as the President recently noted, I quote, the next generation beta, will be immersed in tech and AI from birth and will enter a world of work that is light years away from what it is today. Therefore, building a robust AI talent pool is therefore critical. In this regard, we're already working to future-proof our citizens and workers for the digital environment through specialized training programs and strong partnerships between government, academia, and industry. In order to unlock this opportunity, we are prioritizing specialized training, ramping up investment in digital infrastructure, and partnerships between industry and academia. On decarbonization, now global growth is also increasingly influenced by the imperative to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in order to arrest climate change. And the green transition presents both a threat and an opportunity. Now, major markets for South African exports, such as the European Union and the United Kingdom, are adopting what are known as carbon border adjustment measures. These measures, in part, limit access into those markets for foreign goods produced with a high carbon footprint. So whatever our views are about the pressure to decarbonize, we are now faced with a stark reality that we have to think about how to better secure South Africa's footprint in markets that are insisting on decarbonization. Now, of course, in the current moment, we're negotiating exemptions with the European Union not to affect South African exports as early as next year in January. But the reality is that in the long term, we need to find a way to fulfill the carbon footprint reductions that they are talking about. Now, our mineral wealth, especially in minerals that support the green transition, place us at the forefront of potential beneficiaries of this transition. However, we have seen that beneficiation will not happen without government intervention that actively makes beneficiation investments commercially attractive. The DTIC is driving this through the designation of special economic zones, such as Bochum in the Northern Cape, which are customized to support investments in the battery value chain, renewable energy components, and green hydrogen. Madam Speaker, our goal is very ambitious, and to see progress, we need the kind of consensus-driven approach that we will see unfold in the national dialogue that the President has announced. We expect to see a real social compact in which citizens, political leaders, trade unions, social movements, businesses, and public institutions put their proverbial shoulders to the wheel to agree on concrete actions that will bind all of us around a growth agenda. Now, Honorable Gama, as I had suggested in our portfolio committee 2 months ago, we have to have a discussion about whether, as a general rule, all private sector collaboration with the state under all conditions amounts to the grand scandal of neoliberalism that we are complaining about. And the second element of our chat will have to seriously reflect on what the experience of the Asian tigers teaches us about this concept in practice and measure that against their story of rapid industrial development and how they went about doing that. The President has set us a clear target on investment attraction. Now, we need to attract 2 trillion rands in new investment during this administration. This can be achieved and it can indeed be exceeded. However, the main problem is that, especially for new and black-owned enterprises, access to capital and the cost of capital remain major barriers. And we're continuing to assess the extent to which we're appropriately incentivizing investment in sectors like manufacturing, construction, mining, and agriculture. This is not unusual for developing and developed countries, many of whom use development finance institutions to correct market failures. South Africa does have such development finance institutions, such as the IDC, which are supporting viable businesses run by women, black industrialists, and youth entrepreneurs. But of course, the need is much greater than what government can afford on its own. We are working towards finding effective and practical solutions that will enjoin South Africa's financial sector to allow more capital to be invested in real industrial activity. At the same time, to encourage investment in manufacturing, we are carefully reviewing the cost base of the manufacturing sector, particularly the cost of logistics and electricity. Now, in this regard, last month, Cabinet, as led by you, Mr. President, approved our joint proposal with the Ministry of Electricity and Energy for discounted electricity tariffs for the ferrochrome and alloy subsector to support beneficiation industries to become more cost competitive. Honorable members, the need to grow exports while reducing import leakages across the economy is not a theoretical exercise. Rising imports directly undermine our growth targets if those are coming in sectors of the economy where we have a realistic shot at being competitive. It is for this reason that we are working to ensure that the 1 trillion rands infrastructure build program, announced in the budget speech and reaffirmed by the President, must help to rebuild the capacity of our domestic industries across the steel, polymers, manufacturing, construction, and mining sectors. To do so, we are going to use the Public Procurement Act to ensure that a major portion of the procurement for the infrastructure build program is localized so that it contributes to domestic demand, job creation, and economic growth. In conclusion, Speaker, the Constitution calls on us to advance equality. Our industrial strategy is our roadmap. Through digitalization, carbonization, and diversification, we are rebuilding a productive economy, one that works for the many, not for the few. Let us place our collective shoulders to the wheel and reindustrialize South Africa in the interest of all its people. Now, one honorable member sitting here says, I think that this is a school. I can turn this into a school, but I will choose not to. But to also make the point that I can say everything that I said here, ngeXhosa, nangeSizulu, the results will be the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable GM. I will now recognize Honorable Mahlatsi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings, President. Also, Africa. The United African Transformation rise today to engage vote 1 of the Presidency. And we must do so with the seriousness it demands. Because this vote funds the nerve center of government, the office from which all national priorities must radiate. The Presidency received 17.4% increase from the previous year. It comes with the balloon staff from 507 to 553,
and an 18.6% rise in compensation of employees. Yet the question remains, what is the qualitative impact on this growing bureaucracy on the lives of our people? We are told the presidency is spearheading strategic coordination, but Chairperson, coordination without consequences is just an expensive conversation. Where are the measurable results from Operation Vulindlela? This presidency, entrusted with coordinating government strategy and development, must be measured not only by how much it spends, but how much change it delivers. And today I ask, where are the changes? We hear of effort to reform the public service, to implement the district development model, but tell that to the child in Guyana without water, the grandmother in Eastern Cape waiting 3 months for a grant, and the small business owner in Sebokeng who cannot access markets. This vote must be more than a ceremonial expenditure. It must be an engine of transformation. The UAT welcomed the commitment to fight gender-based violence and femicide through oversight of National Strategic Plan. But oversight without enforcement, without funding, is futile. Where is the accountability when the department underspend on GBVF initiatives? Where is the leadership when provinces fail to establish functional GBV command centers? Chairperson, the UAT is not here to rubber stamp the bureaucratic inflation. We demand outcome-based performance measured that are linked directly to this budget. Full transparency on the implementation of economic reform initiatives, not only headlines, but actual deliveries, jobs, and not just stipends. A presidential dashboard to publicly track progress on job creation, municipality intervention, energy security, food security, and gender-based violence respond, because our people have a right to know. Let this vote reflect not just an authority of presidency, but its accountability.
Your time is
It's a moral statement. And this time of crisis, the moral government must not lie to the promises. Cut me, mambo.
I will now recognize Honorable Mkutu.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. His Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, fellow South Africans. In an interview with a Swiss journalist, Thomas Sangara exclaimed, and I quote, "You cannot carry out fundamental change without a certain amount of madness. In this case, it comes from non-conformity, the courage to turn your back on the old formulas, and the courage to invent the future. Besides, it took the madmen of yesterday for us to be able to act with extreme clarity today. I want to be one of those madmen. We must dare to invent the future." Mr. President, this year marks 70 years since the men and women in Kliptown met to give birth to the groundbreaking document called the Freedom Charter, which outlined the aspirational principles of freedom and democracy in South Africa. As we celebrate 70 years of Freedom Charter, we wish to invoke the spirit of nonconformity and madness in our pursuit to transform South Africa into a truly non-racial, democratic, inclusive South Africa. As we look back on the road that has been traveled since 1994, we are still grappling with the consequences of separate development and neo-colonialism in the structure of our economy and society in general. Whilst a lot has been accomplished by the ANC-led government to breathe life into the injunctions of the Freedom Charter, however, more still needs to be done at an economic level to ensure that it is inclusive and the patterns of ownership, management, and control reflect the demographics of our country. We need to build an economy that is redistributive to respond to the persistent challenges of inequality, poverty, and unemployment that ravage South Africa's youth. As you have said, President, young people in South Africa, abaspani. This situation has condemned young people to a state of hopelessness and marginalized them as social outcasts. To address this, Mr. President, we need to accelerate our efforts to reindustrialize the South African economy and leverage our mineral endowments by building industries to beneficiate them. Our nation will need an overarching industrial strategy that links our education system and skills programs to the country's development agenda and economy. The centerpiece of this strategy, Mr. President, should be creating mass employment for the youth. Youth development, Mr. President, should be at the heart of our development strategy and the industrial strategy, as mentioned by Honorable Zuko Kodlimbi, because young people bear a disproportionate burden of the effects of underdevelopment, unemployment, and poverty. As a country, we will not be able to deal with the challenges of underdevelopment, inequality, and poverty if we do not, in the first instance, transform our education system and address the inequalities in it, particularly because education remains an important instrument to facilitate development. A direct link exists between access to quality basic education and our country's capacity to effectively address deepening socio-economic challenges. Even though we have done much to transform the education landscape, Mr. President, we have not sufficiently tampered with the systems that reproduce an unequal education system, which as a result creates inequality within the country. So, Dr. Muller, we can't choose equality of opportunity without addressing the challenges of imbalances in our society, which are a product of the apartheid system and separate development. We've got to balance the scale and deal with the issue of equal opportunity of outcome and balance it with equal opportunity, equal access of opportunity. It's not an either-or question, but it's both of them because of the history of South Africa. Post-1994, the ANC-led government, Mr. President, has been grappling with reversing two complex challenges that have been the basis of colonial education. One, the systematic racial exclusion of Africans in general and blacks in particular. And two, unequal access to quality education. In 2021, black students represented 76.4% of the 1.3 million students enrolled in higher education institutions. This success is because of the commitment of the ANC to ensure that all doors of learning and culture shall be opened as per the Freedom Charter. Now, I differ with you, Dr. Hlope, when you say that this government has not been able to facilitate a brighter future for its children, and that the children of this country, their future are in danger because of the ANC-led government. I am a product of the interventions of the ANC at a basic level, education level. I'm a product of the interventions of the ANC at the level of higher education through NSFAS. And many South Africans who are young will differ with you when you say that the ANC has not responded to ensuring that it invests in the future of young South Africans through its programs of transformation. The ANC has made significant interventions on the higher education sector by consolidating training and education programs that have historically contributed to reproducing occupational and class divisions in South Africa. These interventions have been consistent with the principle of democratizing universities and building people's education for people's power. The integration and consolidation of vocational colleges and post-schooling training centers into technical and vocational education and training has been focused on rebuilding a skills-based economy and the economy that ensures that more young people participate and is inclusive. Internationally, Mr. President, there is a renewed urgency to strengthen technical and vocational education systems, as highlighted by a research by UNESCO in 2016. This initiative reflects a global recognition of the importance of aligning education with the demands of evolving economies and preparing citizens, especially the youth, for productive participation in society. It is therefore essential that TVETs become instruments of developmental transformation, not mere providers of cheap labor and entrenched capital. Mr. President, we need to invest in practical innovation by increasing the percentage of R&D to GDP expenditure, which currently sits below 1%, which is incredibly low for a country that has ambitions to reindustrialize its economy. The Innovation Fund, President, as announced by you in the State of the Nation address in 2025, needs to be used, and together with SITAs, Mr. President, as part of the instrument to facilitate innovation in TVET colleges and universities through extending and expanding technological stations to all TVET colleges to truly facilitate innovation and build new technical skills. We need to rebuild the TVET sector to reassert its importance and enhance its credibility. Negative perceptions bred in TVET colleges in South Africa, despite their potential. And this, Mr. President, is a story that we need to change. Mr. President, South Africa's critical minerals provide us with a unique opportunity to position South Africa as a regional hub for processing and refining of critical minerals and the production of precursor materials and cathodes, and as a regional hub for battery manufacturing. This is but an example of endless possibilities of how the local beneficiation of our minerals can unlock value and drive growth in our economy. Mr. President, your commitment to export quotas, we say please commit to it. We have got to have export quotas in this country to ensure that not all our mineral resources leave this country without being beneficiated. This will create opportunity for young people in the downstream economy to be able to be innovative and create value and participate in the economy. The state must, through a skills framework, President, link to developmental objectives, President, and to discipline and direct capital. Because it can't be, President, we have got to have a skills framework that is going to be able to guide private sector and capital so that development is directed from the state and outwards, not from the market and to the state. To leverage, President, these critical minerals, as we have said, we need, President, to build the necessary skills. And our SOEs become critical, President, to ensure that young people go and innovate in those SOEs and are created opportunities for them to harness their skills and to be able to get the necessary experience. Mr. President, we must not allow detractors like the DA and all far left, misogynist, racist, and parties who want this country to be surrendered to lawlessness to deter you from pursuing transformative policies in South Africa. In this GNU, President, the DA reminds me of the story of a young boy who in the middle of the night wakes up the village by sounding false alarm bells and shouting fire, fire in the village. And the whole village in panic would wake up and rush to attend to the fire, only to find out there is no fire. They've done it with the Bella Act. They've done it with the Triple BE. They've done it with the employment equity. There is no crisis. The transformative policies of the ANC will continue to build this country, will continue to tilt the scale to ensure that more Black people and Africans participate in this economy.
Honorable Mkutu,
President,
your time is expired.
Thank you.
I will now recognize the Minister of Tourism. Honorable Dilil. Honorable Matiase, sorry.
Honorable Chair, this message, Mr. President, is from my township, Botshabelo, and it carries the views of our people about your presidency. We have listened to the President, the Chief Whip of the Former Liberation Movement, and some of the ministers. It seems like everyone is tired. They all look tired and defeated. Yet, these are the very people who want to persuade society that they understand what must be done to grow the economy, create jobs, and eradicate poverty. Mr. President, your 2018 State of the Nation address, in which you cited Yuma Sukela's song, Tumamina, to mobilize the resourcefulness of South Africans to volunteer their services to create a better future for all. This Tumamina train is crashing badly head first down the cliff. This train has taken a tumble off the cliff into a tangent, sidetracked into a deep, bottomless pit of hell. Your budget vote speech today was another repeat of hollowness, emptiness, and wallowed into nothingness, which has become the hallmark of your presidency. Mr. President, your Tumamina has now become more synonymous to your name and the failed new dawn of reforms, a fight against corruption and restoring the nation's hope during your presidency. With Tumamina, you blasphemously invoke Isaiah prophetic conversation with God, like your predecessor who claimed that the ANC will govern until Jesus comes. You crossed the line. How blasphemous. Indeed, you asked to be sent to deliver on your promises of being a trusted servant. Instead of taking us to Nineveh, where are you taking us to, Mr. President? You are choosing to take us to Tarshish. How voters responded to your deceitful and cunning detour in your presidential journey. They punished you and your party for betraying the trust and breaking your promises of a better life. This was clear sign that you asked, you were given, and went your way with your criminal network syndicates. What has your presidency delivered? Collapsed economy, destroyed by ESCOM and load shedding, junk status, corruption, chronism, violent crimes, abuse of drugs, rising levels of unemployment amongst the youth, high cost of living, chronic poverty amongst the poor, and widening inequalities. More than 12 million people are unemployed. More than 28 million people depend on social grants, not by choice, but because their government has failed them. Violent crimes has become part of our daily lives. Daylight robberies, cash in transit haste, and killing are now woven into the fabric of South Africa. Abantu ba re ho wena o palletswe o hlolehile ibile Zuma o na le betere o tsebe hore o hlolehile le ka nnete mogalajo o pallwa ke Zuma. You're often credited as a humble leader. Mr. President, too much humility renders a person gullible, indifferent, aloof and divorced from reality, and distant from the suffering and the vulnerable. You will be remembered as worst president, worse than your predecessor. This will be your legacy. This is how you shall be remembered. You had ample opportunities to redeem yourself, but failed. In all cases, you are like a discredited biblical Babylonian figure called Balzarah, who went on a drinking spree, feasting and drinking with the underworld criminal syndicates and drug cartels, with the money looted and laundered by your comrades, associates, and criminals like Vusimuzi Matlala and his types, when the poorest of the poor are dying from hunger. Mr. President, we have lost all the sanctity of a man who can be trusted, of moral high ground and ethical leadership. Your leadership has become tested, weighed, and found wanting. Your legacy will be the privatization of strategic functions of state-owned enterprises. You have handed over the core functions of roads construction, ports, rail, and energy to the friends, families, cronies, and even criminal syndicates. That is why a member of the Freedom Front Plus stands here and lectures us about BEE, transformation, and the transfer of wealth from minority whites who benefited from apartheid to the majority of our people. It is not true that you are privatizing ESCOM, Transnet, Prasa, Dinel, and other state-owned enterprises because the private sector has got no money. They do not have money. This is a tactic by the bullying DA that supervises and leads the collision between the DA and the ANC that tells the private sector to come and invest without taking any risk because government carry all the risk. That is what your Minister of Finance has said every time he tabled his many budgets. This bubble built on falsehood will blow up one day. It was in these hollowed walls in 2015, faced with scandals after scandal, when your predecessor was described as a constitutional delinquent and a social scum that you defended him. And you have got the courage and audacity to remind us of how bad he was, yet you are part of his administration. Why? You and him are birds of the same feather. Jelle, ek moet vir jou sê, as 'n kwessie aan die saak van 'n soort soek soort, aan een perd se prys. President, you want the people of South Africa to believe you are dealing with crime and corruption. Yet the head of the NPA, Advocate Batoyi, who has now been in office for almost 7 years and should be retiring next year, unless you extend a term of office for another 2 years, just told the nation that NPA is captured by people working to undermine its effort. We wrote to you, President, and said that despite our usual criticism of commissions of inquiry, this case made by Advocate Batoyi was a case in point for you to act and appoint a commission of inquiry, but you did nothing. We do not blame those who now say that you are part of a very criminal syndicate. They are busy investigating because to many South Africans, they cannot see the difference between the criminals and yourselves. Finally, President.
Honorable Matiase, please take your seat.
No, Chair,
Honorable Dagmo.
thank you very much. My point of order is very simple. The honorable member basically said, referring to the president, that you are part of a criminal syndicate. That is clearly impacting on the integrity and against the rules of this House. We all know if you're making such an allegation, you must bring a substantive motion. So I would ask you to ask the honorable member to withdraw.
Okay, honorable members, I do not need your assistance. I heard Mr. Matiase, he said we do not blame those. He did not directly say that he is part of the syndicate. So please continue, Honorable Matiase.
Finally, President, women and children are dying every day. Parents are killing their own children. Siblings are killing one another. And on top of that, criminals are killing our people. Your presidency has failed to decisively deal with violent crime, and women and children are suffering. We talk about Kwekwe and many other children whose parents have lost faith in your presidency and the state you lead. You are protecting criminal syndicates, Mr. President.
Order.
ANC.
Order.
ANC members have come here to pontificate.
Honorable Matiase, please take your seat.
Thank you, Chair. It's a similar point, and I'm not sure, Chair, if you heard that. When you say, you use the words you are protecting, that is an issue of an accusation of criminality, similar to the first one that I raised, which I think, Chair, you didn't hear, because he did, after that comment that you made previously, he did then go on to say you are part of a criminal syndicate. That's not political debate. That's a serious allegation which impugns integrity. And we all know if you make an allegation, you must bring a substantive motion. I appeal to you, Chair. We cannot allow that in this House.
Okay. I hear you, Honorable Dagmo, but on the first matter, I think I have hold on that one. Can Honorable Matiase please refrain from saying anything that, no, do not assist me. Do not assist me. Do not assist me. Do not assist me. I am very well capable of making a decision, so do not assist me. Refrain from pointing at a member of this House and saying they are part of criminal syndicates. And in this point, you did say that. Can you please withdraw?
Honorable Chair, I thought Honorable Cameron is
Matiase
speaks English, and the you that I made use of is in plural, not in singular.
No,
it's in plural, not
you
in
said, Mr. President.
She's an English understanding better than I do.
Mr. Matiase, you said, Mr. President, you. So can you please withdraw that?
The you I use is in plural. In plural.
Honorable
It's not in
Matias, please withdraw.
I withdraw.
Thank you very much.
ANC members have come.
Honorable
calling-
Matias, can you please take your seat again? Honorable Skosana? Use the other mic.
Chair, thank you. Chair, what I'm raising to you now is that when Honorable Doug Moore raised his hand, he never quoted any rule. But when it comes to some of us, you want the rule. Is that fair, Chair? No.
Honorable Skosana, Mr. Dagmore did quote actually on the rules and said that a member was casting aspersions. When you quoted a rule at that time, you quoted the wrong rule, which did not speak anything about the Guptas. So can we please proceed? Honorable Matias, please proceed.
Thank you so much, Honorable House Chair. ANC members have come here falling over each other, pontificating about the destruction of state-owned enterprises under his rule of 31 years and blame it on honorable members of MK who were legitimately deployed as deployed cadres of the ANC. Who must take the blame for that rubbish? Than the ANC itself. Honorable Mushauli falsely accuses the EFF for not knowing the law. It was both in our media statements we released and the letters we wrote to the president, cautioning him about the decision he took to appoint Professor Kashalia, that he quoted the wrong constitutional section, and we wanted to tell him that Section 98 cannot apply in the appointment of Professor Kashalia, and the president was ill-advised and misapplied himself to hurriedly put Mr. Mkunu on paid leave and appoint his friend, Professor Kashalia. Neither Section 91, subsection 3C applies in the fracas, in the fiasco that the president has created. Lastly, you are making mockery, Mr. President, of supreme sacrifices of more than 360 years of struggles, gallant struggles against apartheid colonialism. Mr. President, you are a disgrace. Do an honorable thing.
Order.
Hang your head in shame and resign to salvage the little of what remains from your diminishing.
Honorable Matias,
of your
can you
diminishing.
please take a seat?
Please keep time because
Take
we've got 1
a
minute.
seat. No, your time has been paused. Honorable member.
I don't think it's parliamentary for the member to say the president is disgraced. He must withdraw. Thank you.
Honorable members, honorable members, honorable members, I want us to do this. We debate in this house, right? The deputy minister of the ANC came here and said to the MK, the judge in Tonton was a disgrace. You kept quiet, you didn't raise a point of order. It can't, it must go either way. So, in that, it is a point of debate. Continue, Honorable Matias.
I want to repeat.
Order.
Mr. President, you are a disgrace.
Order.
Hang your. Do an
Honorable
thing.
Matias, can you please take a
Order.
seat? Honorable TM.
Honorable
No,
House
it's not.
Chairperson, I want to raise an order on you. One, you can't expect the ANC to call an order on behalf of MK, as you are saying. And here we are not following feelings or whatever, we're following the rules of parliament. Now we of the ANC,
honorable members, can you, members from the MK, can you please keep quiet?
We of the ANC picked up that the honorable member on the podium said what he said. So you cannot prejudice us for what they did not pick up, Bona. So we're raising a point of order on what the honorable member is saying, and it is unparliamentary. Thank you very much.
And unfortunately, that word disgrace is not in the unparliamentary book. So you can go and check it out, rephrase yourself, and put more information on that. It is not there. So I will allow
what you said.
Honorable,
You
no,
must
Honorable TM, I will not allow you to do that. Honorable Mahambe Hlala, I will not allow you to do that. I have ruled on this member. You see, when you throw other things on other people, you must accept the same thing as well. It can't be that when you throw them and then you don't accept them back. You can't be thin-skinned when it comes to such debates. And I have ruled on that matter. Oh, continue, Honorable Matthias.
I want to repeat, Mr. Ramaphosa, you are disgraced. You must resign. Hang your head in shame to salvage the remaining integrity that you still have, because you are the face of the misery the nation tries to escape from. You are a nightmare that our people cannot come to terms with. Mr. President, 12 years ago when we decided to leave the ANC for EFF, we took a conscious decision that there shall be no reconciliation between the EFF and the ANC, because the ANC has betrayed the cardinal commitment that it would bring genuine, meaningful economic freedom in our people. Not the rubbish that you go up and day and in, trying to tell the people that you are busy and you are busy for nothing. And we want to state here for now that the EFF rejects this budget vote, and we reject it with the contempt it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Ocamp.
So, the EFF has declined intellectually.
Shaya, Komisa Sam, Shaya.
Honorable Ocamp, please take a seat. Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, honorable members, honorable members.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. I rise on a point of privilege, and I would like to appeal to all members of the House, all of them on both sides. Let's look at our rules and apply them correctly so that we do not degenerate the debate. And I do also wish to ask members that let's be robust but respectful, because the electorate that's looking at us here, I don't think will appreciate that in the exercise of our duty, we actually behave in the manner that they do. So as I say, it's a matter which I'm bringing to you on a point of privilege, because it does not assist the presiding officers when all of us interject without using the rule and sometimes quote wrong rules. And when the presidium rules, we feel bad because we did not use a correct rule in our intervention. I'm just appealing. But also, let's have the decorum of the House. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Montlan.
Chair, can I also rise on a point of privilege? It's in the rules. See, this is why.
Honorable Montlan, I gave you a platform. Please do not address people of why you are standing.
Chair, let me make this point. And I appreciate what the Honorable Speaker said. But I think that the speakers should also apply the rules equally. You know, I rose on this point of privilege in the previous week, and I want to connect with what I want to say just now, where parties were demonized for raise that in a committee, you said the following, but their right to put forward the declaration was undermined. That was not recognized, Chair. Secondly, Chair, You know, some of us who have been called names for the last 10 years, we took it on the chin. Some of the things that are being said here are not even factual. We took it on the chin, Speaker. Okay? For me, somebody can say, hey, you bought toll trains. They're not toll trains. I don't have to respond to that. Okay?
Okay, Honorable Mandla, what is your point of order?
This is the point.
Yes.
It's the point of privilege that I'm making is that it shouldn't be when certain people agree with the decorum, but when certain people are called names, there's nothing to do with the decorum. When somebody raises something against a person, we don't say a member of this house, we don't say, please, you are out of order, bring it through. It must be done by the table. Bring a substantive motion. We allowed it to happen, it proceeds.
Honorable Mandla, please, we need to proceed
talk about
with
the decorum. So the decorum
business of
should
the
not
day.
be, the decorum should not be should apply to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Montana, I don't believe that. No, you can take your seat. Yes. I don't believe that the speaker was raising such because of a certain member saying it to another member. She was looking at the house and how now we are behaving as honorable members. But in that said, it did not need a counter a comment or so. I think as the Speaker of the National Assembly, she is obligated to rise and say when the House now loses its decorum. So there is absolutely nothing about any other member saying something to another member. I don't want us to take it in that sense or with that attitude, but I want us to take it as the Speaker has addressed it. And even if she is seated in this seat, she would always say, it is not the first time that she would address such a matter. So it can't be that now because she's addressing it and we take it with that attitude of saying because it was another member raising it on another member. So can we please proceed with the business of the House? Honorable Ocamp, you can take the podium.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Good evening, Mr. President. Honorable members, dear South Africans, just over a year ago, Mr. President, you stood at the Union buildings to take your oath of office for a second time. Despite the winter, the sun shone brightly over Pretoria as the will of the people was heeded. In a world where freedom is under attack, our republic conducted a free, fair and credible election. And I think we need to thank ourselves for that. Besides the MK party and those that sit to my left, that does not live in reality, all parties accepted the results of our elections. And there was a peaceful transition to the 7th administration. With the beauty of our democracy, even those that do not live in reality have audience in our courts. Indeed, Mr. President, this coming Friday, South Africa and the world will commemorate Nelson Mandela Day. This Mandela Day bears significance if we reflect on the strength of our democracy. We are truly gifted as a people, living free. There are members of this House who, despite taking an oath to our Constitution, wants to destroy our country. It is fascinating to hear Honorable Slope speak of all that is broken, all the mess the Government of National Unity has inherited, as if he and his party members played no part in that destruction. When you take an oath that you will serve this country and that you will be faithful to the Constitution of this country, it cannot be that the first thing that you do when you come into this parliament is say that you want to squash the Constitution of this country. Shame on you, MK. They refer to themselves as the voice of the voiceless, but in truth, Honorable Deputy...
Honorable Ocamp, please take your seat. Honorable Ram.
Thank you, Chair. This member of the DA, representing a party of land thieves.
What is your point of order?
The point of order, it says the MK has claim to squash the constitution. Where have we ever said that? We have never said that. So this member must withdraw and apologize.
Yeah.
But he said the MK. I didn't hear him saying the MK party. So you don't know which MK he's speaking about. He just said the MK. So, and it was not directed at an individual. Continue, Honorable Okem.
The only MK.
Thank you, Honorable
Yeah, now,
Deputy.
Chairperson, you are just being out of
House
order.
Chairperson.
Really.
Honorable House Chairperson,
You are being
they
out of
referred-
order. You are inviting us for something that is unprecedented. You are just being out of order, honestly.
Who is this member?
It's Mutubatsi. It's Mutubatsi, Chair. Yeah, about that
Mutubatsi, if you have not been recognized, you do not speak. If you do that again, I will ask IT to remove you.
Remove Mutubatsi.
Continue,
You
Honorable
don't even
Okem.
know the rules.
Continue,
Now,
Honorable Okem.
So, Chair, it's only me.
House
When others
Chairperson.
do that, you don't call them
The
to
MK
order. Let's
referred to
doing the same. You are not doing the same.
IT, please remove Honorable Mutubatsi. Continue, Honorable Okem.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. They refer to themselves as the voice of the voiceless, but in truth, they are not only unfit to govern, they are a danger to our democracy and our constitution. Honorable Deputy Minister Morolong, I don't know whether you spoke here on behalf of the Ramaphosa or the Mashatile faction within the ANC, but what I can tell you is that your maths are as bad as those that did the census. To have support for a census that had an undercount of 31% is not good. To the EFF that are still shouting and chanting, kill the boer, kill the farmer. We know why you are doing that. You are doing that because you've got absolutely no substance in anything else that you say. We heard that again when Honorable Matehase spoke here this evening. Honorable Matehase spoke of criminal syndicates. It was very strange that he did not mention the criminal syndicate of those that looted its bank. Honorable Peterson, I know from the PA, I know that the PA is a smaller party and you do not get a lot of time to speak here. But if you take all the time that you get to address the DA, we are feeling kind of flattered. But I would advise you to be your own party, as the Democratic Alliance has decided that we will when we enter the government of national unity.
Honorable Okem, can you please take your seat? Honorable Mwali.
Chairperson, the member from ANC.
Honorable Mwali.
Remember,
Honorable
ANC.
members, can we please, honorable members. Yes, Honorable Mwali.
Remember, ANC Chairperson, if ivule mic ikhulume la ngaphandle ukuthi uyirecognize kodwa ukwazi uyikhipha. And our member uma enza the same uyamkhipha Chairperson. Ngiyacela ukuthi ube fair.
What is your point of order, honorable members? Because Honorable Okem is on the podium speaking and
No,
which
Chairperson, you just
member?
removed our member because you are saying they are speaking without being recognized. But
Your
the member
authority
from
is being
ANC
undermined,
are doing that.
Chairperson.
No, honorable members, Honorable Lizie.
Look at the member,
Honorable
Chair. He's doing
Lizie,
it
I'm
right now.
questioning you. Honorable Mwali, I did not take out the honorable member first. I cautioned the honorable member not to open the mic without being recognized. And he did that the second time when I had cautioned them that I will alert IT to remove him. So I did not just do that. And I've just cautioned Honorable Lizie not to open the mic and speak without being recognized. So can we please proceed with the business of the day?
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Honorable President, the Democratic Alliance again maintains our commitment to the government of national unity, in which we share a partnership. Our partnership is not about individual party interests, but rather what is in the best interest of all South Africans. We and all of us must always put our country first and not ask what is in the best interest of our parties, but what is in the best interest of this country. The main objective of this Parliament, Honourable President, must be to tangibly grow the economy and create jobs. With 8.2 million South Africans unemployed, it is our moral responsibility to improve their lives, and it can be done. We must work together to achieve that. The past year has admittedly not been easy, but it has been worth it. We are standing here today through turbulent times, but we are here. We are making good progress for all South Africans. There will, of course, be obstacles, but that is governing. It is much harder, Honourable President, to build something lasting than it is to break. The breakers to my left have shown that to us. They've shown that to us again today. We, the builders, must stand together and build towards a better country for everybody. We are making progress. We are making progress.
Can you please take your seat? Honourable Member.
Thank you, Chair. This honourable member wants me to sing, really, kill the bull.
Honourable Member, what are you raising on?
No, that is the feeling that is giving me, that I want to sing that song. Kill the bull, kill
No, Honourable Member. Honourable Okem, please proceed.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. Honourable President, we've seen improvements in various sectors. We've seen them at Home Affairs. We heard the Deputy Minister speak about that today. We saw that agriculture, that is a sector of our economy that can create a lot of jobs, was the fastest growing sector ministry in our sectors throughout South Africa in the first quarter of this year. We need to grow those sectors. We need to heed the words of the Minister of Finance when he gave us 1 trillion rand for infrastructure development, and the Minister of Infrastructure and Development to really implement that towards the benefit of all South Africans. It can create jobs and it can allow us to improve this country. Honourable President, there is much more to be done. Our economy is not growing fast enough. We still live with horrific violence, with women and children, violence on our farms that we need to curb. We also face the painful reality that some children in our country are going to bed hungry at night. No child in South Africa must sleep on an empty stomach, and we've got to work together to fight that. Mr. President, we also need to do more to tackle corruption and gain the people's trust. After the damage that was done by those who are now in the MK party, we must show South Africans through our deeds that we take wrongdoing seriously. Corruption and dishonesty cannot and should not be tolerated. It is a prestigious honor to serve South Africans, and no public official must be tainted. Honourable President, commissions have delivered great reports in the past, but commissions are as good as their consequences. We must see to it that these commissions that you have now established over the last time must have consequences. Honourable President, the time for working together has arrived. You mentioned trees standing together. The Democratic Alliance is one of those trees that will stand together with everybody that want to build this country. Every day of this government and every day to come, the DA will fight for our country. We look forward to continue.
Honourable Okem, can you please take your seat? Honourable Lucia.
Thank you very much. This one sounds like, thank you very much. This one sounds like it's in the faction of Andrew Whitfield, who the president
Honourable
must fire
Lucia.
again. Can you take a question?
Honourable Okem, can you take a question?
Yeah. The president must fire. Okay, that one again.
7 seconds left.
Okay, he will not take a question. He's got
President,
7
fire
seconds
Andrew
left.
again. So I just do that.
Honourable Chairperson, the Democratic Alliance have committed ourselves to building this country. We are committed to work together, and we accept the same, expect the same of everybody. Thank you, Honourable President. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Chief Whip of the Opposition.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, House Chair, Mr. President, honourable members.
Having listened to the debates today leaves me with a lot of questions. It has become apparent that we need a strong man to drive the South African ship. We have also listened to the flip-flopping DA begging for blue lights. The questions that we have today, Mr. President, are very profound. We have listened to your cabinet ministers who clearly have been through the Rupert conveyor belt of changed men. What we are asking is, what are we going to do with such poor material after the GNU ship has sunk? They are not fit for purpose, they have no political education, and they are not fit to govern. This whole administration brings to mind the words of the Iron Lady, Her Excellency Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, when she observed of the government of her day in 1985, and it's befitting today, sir. There are many idiots in whose hands our nation's fate and progress has been placed, and I rest my case. Since the start of your presidency, the cheap talks on fighting corruption, ethical, capable leadership, sir, we are exhausted. Our spirits are deflated. We've lost trust in you. Speaker, the integrity of this president is in question. Let's start with today. President says there's a national dialogue which is accepted by all partners. The next breath, the chief whip comes and says Steenhuisen is against it. President gives us some intertwined GNU trees in Limpopo and Eastern Cape. In the next breath, the chief whip says the descendants of white supremacy. Which script are you reading from? Which script should South Africa read from? In January 2018 in Nongoma, sir, you viewed land expropriation without compensation as a critical legislative mechanism. And I quote, you said we can make this country a Garden of Eden, close quote. Instead, you turned this government ship into a GNU Noah's Ark with all sorts of animals that are welcome. Close. In all honesty, Speaker, as we sit here today, we don't even know anymore what's on the table of the GNU. Are we moving forward as a country or sliding backward? It's a crisis. Political crisis, criminality, corruption has characterized this presidency. The lingering question in our minds is that, sir, knowing that you did not have the burden of breaking ground or shedding blood in establishing the ANC, or even the wisdom of transitioning it into the new South Africa, you were simply called upon to steward a ship already on course to change the lives of our people. Sir, you had it all to cruise into the new dawn. You were the person clothed with such an important task. Did you discharge this trust truthfully, with all good intentions? Have you contributed towards the functioning and betterment of our country and your organization, given the many honors that it has conferred on you as a billionaire and a president today? As a nation. Ondlofu said it well. Akukombora mina, bantekela ngwansati bantekela shidakwa. Look at that Napoleon complex over there. He's trying very hard to compensate, but his party leader is towering tall miles ahead of their chief whip in the blue there. He thinks it's cute to come here every time airing dirty linen of the GNU, so obsessed with the MK party. But we understand why everybody's obsessed with President Zuma. He made all of you here. He gave all of you opportunities to be in government. Unfortunately, you became changed men. While others remain fully excited to be finally governing with white supremacy. Sir, the moral dilemma some of your people in your party, in your cabinet, in your caucus have, they find it impossible to do this GNU thing without being false to their own deep convictions and betraying those who put their trust in them. Sir, President Nelson Mandela said at the OAU summit in June 1994, there is something wrong in how we govern ourselves, and I quote, and it must be said that the fault is not in our stars that we are ill-governed. The fault is in ourselves, I close quote. It's you, sir, who make us as a people question ourselves whether we believe in our capacity for self-government. Clearly, you do not have a government capable of governing. You are merely nursing white fears of black domination, which is manifesting. It's manifesting itself at every decision corner in your bloated cabinet. And that is why, sir, when EFF Plus comes here and talks about legacy, they should not be throwing stones. These are the descendants of hate and apartheid architects, white supremacy. And yes, it's not only MK votes that were stolen. 26 parties' votes were stolen. I was one of those parties. Our country, which once stood as a beacon of hope for the whole continent, a miracle in the global south, yet your reign, sir, has cast it into the shadows. Perhaps it's time to take a leaf from the MK. We change leaders. We change leaders. The reason you are sitting at 40% and sliding down rapidly as a party is because you still have your stinking dirty underwear. Change it. That's why people are running away from you, starting with the presidency. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy to have a stinking dirty underwear. You can't change it because you are waiting for a hijacked electoral conference like what happened with CR17. As we honor legacy of Nelson Mandela, and I hope someday soon, I'm gonna quote, we'll refrain to behave as though we do not believe that coexistence among African brethren is at all possible. And the African people can be organized by Africans for Africans, with everybody who owes his loyalty only to Africa and who is prepared to accept the democratic rule of an African majority. I close quote. You have betrayed that statement of Nelson Mandela. Honestly, House Chair, the prosperity of this nation is not something that we can base our hopes on for the future of our children. No nation can survive the tax burden criminality so high placed upon its people. The presidential vote should be about taking decisive action to protect the integrity of our nation, our heritage as a people, our justice system, and ensure accountability for those who have betrayed the public trust. As we speak here, House Chair, we are tempted to even ask, let one of your 3 ministers of police be the minister of police for women, to protect women, GBV, people with disabilities, the vulnerable, the elderly, because frankly, everything else is a joke. Sir, 11 million South Africans remain unemployed. Our youth are starving, they're on drugs. Teenage pregnancy is on a rampant just to obtain a grant. The wealth of this country is sitting in the hands of your GNU partners. You would expect that the highest office of this land, where you preside, you yourself having tasted wealth, will be laser focused on addressing this inequality and poverty crisis facing our people. Yet, you come here with your partners and you're defending the
Honorable Chief of the Opposition, your time has expired.
We reject this budget. Thank you.
I will now recognize Honorable Sangoni.
Madam Speaker, Your Excellency, Comrade President, honorable members, fellow South Africans. Today's debate has unfortunately, in many respects, been a missed opportunity to critically interrogate the budget of the apex arm of government. At such a time when it is more critical than ever that the center should hold, we have witnessed grandstanding from honorable members on the
Order, Speaker.
Honorable Sangoni, please take your seat. Honorable Reddy.
Honorable Speaker, there's no provision in the rules to refer to someone as comrade in the House. Please ask the member to withdraw. Thank you.
Honorable Reddy, honestly now. And please, you must raise your hand until you are recognized. Do not unmute and speak when you have not been recognized. That is out of order. Continue, Honorable Sangoni.
Thank you. When it is critical that the center should hold, we have witnessed grandstanding from honorable members on the benches of opposition who preach democracy, but they fail to advance it in their own ranks. There have been laments about accountability and transparency from those whose own affairs are cloaked in mystery and intrigue. We've also seen posturing about moving government of national unity that they form part of. Vote 1 is too important, too significant, both in terms of its symbolism and orientation, too critical to our mission of being accountable to the South African people for us to be distracted by this doublespeak. Unfortunately, Honorable House Chair, to quote Shakespeare, what we have heard today is nothing more than sound and fury signaling nothing. Delivering the State of the Nation address earlier this year and again today, His Excellency the President paid a solemn and moving tribute to the brave soldiers of the SANDF who lost their lives in armed combat in the Eastern DRC. These heroes did not die for personal glory or conquest, but in defense of the Congolese people's right to peace and security. Their sacrifice must always remind us that our freedom is rooted in solidarity, in service, and in unwavering resolve. The President also went on to remind us of the enduring power of the Freedom Charter, the moral and constitutional foundation of our democratic society. It is this seminal document of the people that underpins our continued journey towards a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous South Africa, a journey that the African National Congress and the mass democratic movement as a whole define as the National Democratic Revolution. Now, following the strategic setback in May 2024 elections, we are beginning to witness a sustained and aggressive calculated assault on this very revolution. Racist and reactionary detractors who once whispered in dark corners have now become emboldened. They are attempting to derail our collective march towards total liberation and reverse the hard gains of our democracy. Led by some of this in this House, these attacks are neither justified nor rooted in fact, as we have seen in this debate. The real grievances of the people are being twisted into narratives that serve elite interests rather than the national good. The demand for equality and dismantling the effects of structural racism in the world's most unequal country is presented as an enemy of economic growth and foreign direct investment. We sit in this debate and have to listen to them argue falsely and cynically that equity undermines investment. I ask you, Honorable Mulder, how can any society grow while inequality festers? Kindly please enlighten us how prosperity will be achieved when the majority remain excluded. The Employment Equity Act is under legal attack from some GNU partners. BEE is being vilified with spirited attacks to roll it back by some GNU partners. And most disturbingly, the vision of the Freedom Charter that free medical care and hospitalization should be provided for all is being sabotaged by relentless litigation against the NHI, again by some GNU partners. So let us be clear, we will not retreat. We will not allow our diversity to be weaponized against us. While some, like the DA's Honorable Emma Powell, go to London seeking instructions on how we run our country as if we're a colony, the African National Congress shall go to the people and engage in the national dialogue. The ANC fully supports the national dialogue, and the national dialogue will proceed despite shouts from those who are obsessed with performative opposition. We will breathe life into the first words of our constitution. Tina abantu, we the people. We note with no surprise that not a single DA minister or deputy minister is debating today. It must be difficult indeed to explain how they reconcile their constitutional fidelity with their party's internal warfare. They have to pretend to serve government by day while accounting to the madam by night. It is no secret that the DA is paralyzed, confused, erratic. No wonder the Honorable Oakam can speak authoritatively on factions, because, lulled by the sins of incumbency they once detested, the party is now at war with itself, deeply divided with two factions fighting for its soul. One led by Honorable Steenhuisen, who wants to make the GNU work, and the other led by the madam and forcing Steenhuisen to do very strange things in order to jeopardize the stability of the GNU. It is on this basis that I understand the members of the executive chose to hide, not even show their faces, and sit out this presidency debate vote. Madam Chair, our constitution remains the envy of the world. We must guard against opportunistic interpretations and malicious distortions. The Honorable Mhlauli has addressed this matter of the appointment of Professor Kashalia, and we understand that it will be difficult for those so-called proponents of superior logic to understand it, because indeed we appreciate constitutional reading is a skill, and reading for meaning is an even higher idea. What she said, Honorable Chief Whip of the EFF, is not legal wizardry, it's basic constitutional literacy. Even more absurd were the comments that were made by the leader of the MK party, who claimed that commissions of inquiry are a waste of time and yield no results. I urge the Honorable Hlophe to ask some of his own members who are currently in and out of court, thanks to the work of the Zondo Commission, whether indeed commissions are irrelevant and a waste of time. But honestly, Honorable House Chair, the less said about the MK party, the better. The MK party is less a political organization and more like a family WhatsApp group gone rogue. They've had more secretary generals than they've had policy documents, and that's generous considering we're still waiting to see their first actual policy. The MK's party's idea of succession planning, well, whoever is left standing after the latest disciplinary fallout, and that's until next week. And their president, the supreme leader himself, a statesman who's caught in a loop between making the law, breaking the law, and asking his lawyers what the law is. So when you walk past MK benches in parliament, just know that despite the fake camouflage, you don't get a sense of a disciplined revolutionary formation. Instead, it's vibes of a school trip gone wrong. Nobody's sure who's in charge. Some kids are missing. The class rep was appointed on the bus ride here. And the teacher, she's back at the service station arguing over petrol money. Honorable House Chair, the ANC's commitment to transparency is not theoretical. It is proven. Over the years, this president has established various commissions that have revealed deep structural weaknesses in various state institutions and come up with recommendations to deal with them. The Madlanga Commission will be no different, Honorable Cholip. So as our fallen heroes in DRC did, they stood firm in the face of danger, so too does the ANC. It will remain steadfast. We will spare no effort, make no compromise, and offer no apology in defending the NDR and the fundamental rights enshrined in our constitution. To do this, Comrade President, we must strengthen the presidency as the center of government and an effective and accountable coordinator of the National Program of Action, as articulated in the MDP. We reject with contempt it deserves the false narrative that building state capacity equates to the creation of an unaccountable super presidency. That idea is both incorrect and irresponsible. Wrong, too, is Honorable Gama's argument that private sector participation in the National Logistic Crisis Committee amounts to a coup. In the same breath, he then complains about the absence of investment for job creation. He seems not to have learned anything from Chairman Deng Xiaoping of China, who said that to resolve national development problems, you must mobilize all cats, whether they are black and white, to catch the mice. This simply means that a developmental state must periodically use its political capacity, not just legislation, to extract cooperation from private capital in terms of the terms determined by the state. We precisely need a strong, capable, and efficient presidency to lead in front, as it did in the establishment of the Presidential Commission on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. This commission has already delivered a national 4IR strategy, the country's first artificial intelligence institute, and bold steps towards inclusive economic participation. Operation Vulindlela, Honorable Mahlatsi, is the creation of a strong, capable, efficient presidency. They have begun implementing the digital transformation roadmap, bringing the vision of a digitized public service closer to reality. Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Madam House Chair, the ANC is resolute in its commitment for universal digital access. That is why we're calling for the urgent implementation of the National Sovereign Communication Satellite Program. Digital sovereignty is not negotiable. Mongameli, 70 years later, the demands of the Freedom Charter still echo with urgency. The people still demand to govern. The people still demand that all national groups have equal rights. The people still demand to share the wealth of the country. To borrow the words of Madiba, whose legacy you carry forward and whose footsteps you walk, after climbing a great hill, one only finds there are many more to climb. So, Mongameli, leaders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable members, that concludes the speakers list on the budget vote debate and the business of the day. Honorable members, you are reminded that the Honorable President will reply tomorrow. I will now request members to stand and wait for the presiding officer and the maids to leave the chamber. The House is adjourned.